Some people think that our heart is our most vital organ. Actually, it's not. Our brain is. Our mind is a maze, a labyrinth of experiences from birth that creates the reality we live. God designed us to thrive on earth with joy through human interaction and relationships that shape and mold us. But what happens when those interactions break us and shatter the hope and the innocence we once held? How do we find our way home? How do we pick up the pieces? Can we ever be made new? There is hope for the brokenhearted because our Savior and Creator designed us to repair. We just need to be shown the way. Join us on a journey as we learn how to take Jesus to our past, restore what was lost, and bring healing to the fractured soul.
Welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We're your hosts, Leah and Michelle. It's Tuesday, which means it's healing for the fractured soul night. Now, this is the episode. It's going to be the episode. That Leah has been trying to get to some nice. Wow.
I just let it go like that.
You did let it go. Mm-hmm. Let it go. Let it go. That's super fancy here. Anyway, this is the episode that Leah's been trying to get to for a few weeks now.
You know, and I still wasn't able, just to be honest with you, we're going to let the Holy Spirit flow because when I was putting it together before, I was going to go in a different direction. Tonight, I'm hoping that this goes in the right direction that I am looking for it to go.
It's going to.
So I'm very excited to do this, but I don't know if you know anything about me. You've been watching me for, some of you for a long time.
They know more about you than you know about you at this point.
So if you understand me, sometimes it's like that Swiss mountain bar that burned down where all the thoughts get stuck at the door. And
Leah, no, that sounds terrible.
And ain't nobody getting out.
Don't use that as an example. That was really bad. That was morbid and terrible and awful. My gosh.
Well, okay.
Are all your thoughts going to die of smoke inhalation?
No, but can we do it just anytime there's a stampede of thoughts?
Okay, let's just call it a stampede of thoughts.
Okay.
40 some odd people have died.
That was awful. We're going to continue to pray for
We're going to pretend you didn't say that. All right, a couple things before we get into tonight's show. Taking care of business every day. Taking care of business. Wishing happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Condi.
Happy birthday to Condi. Now, I didn't get time to upload this video. These people who call themselves our friends, who Condi just so happens to have a birthday today, sent a present. The gift that will keep on giving so much pain and agony and hurt, harm to me. Mm-hmm. They sent a present in the mail today. We didn't know what it was. Mm. I kind of knew what it was. I thought it was from Dale Jones, even though Shauna had said, keep an eye out in the mail for a present. I'm going to tell you, the punchline is they sent weights. What are you trying to say? Because it's so interesting that I know you guys didn't order that yesterday, but I just find the timing uncanny here. After yesterday's debacle of Leah and Michelle trying to do Michelle trying, Leah succeeding to do the Norwegian 4x4 in the park. Follow that up by now we have a mystery object that we open up on live. So I have to do. Leah's got a whole routine and everything like that. And I'm hurting here. I'm in pain. These people on Condi's birthday did this to us. I think it's cruel and unusual punishment. But we did that live on Facebook. I haven't had time to upload it. I will. But if you missed yesterday's, please by all means go and check that out. It's something. It's quite something.
It's fun.
It's so fun. If you want to hear Michelle scream like she's having a baby, that's the video for you. It's totally it. Go do it. Okay. So, healing for the fractured soul, I have to say, has been one of the most unexpected, getting back to serious topics, unexpected transformations of my entire life. Didn't expect it to take the turn that it has taken, but specifically the past few months, as we have gotten into borderline personality disorder, narcissism, psychopathy, which is like being a psychopath, schizophrenia, all of these things, guys, I think that, you know, the study of mental health is actually fairly new as far as the history of mankind goes, the way that we understand it. I think that without the power of God, you cannot fully understand it, which is why I think that the healing for the fractured soul is so powerful, because we are taking from the world and what they have discovered in the natural and combining it with what we understand in the supernatural. And I think it's in, is it John chapter 1? And then again, it's in the Old Testament where God came to heal the brokenhearted. I was looking that word up, and the brokenhearted and the contrite spirit, I was telling this to Leah today. That word for the brokenhearted, I don't know exactly what it is to just literally shatter something, to just break it into, I'm making this up, but like a million pieces. Just imagine something as broken as you can. But it's an action. Every other time that it's used in the Bible, it's something that's just completely broken, like that someone else did. Okay. So I think when we hear that scripture that God came to heal the brokenhearted, we just think that God came to heal some sad people. That's not true. God came to heal the fractured soul. God came to heal the fractured mind. God came to heal the schizophrenic. God came to heal the psychopath, the sociopath, the narcissist, the borderline, right? That is what that scripture means. And someone did that to you. So there is a lot of, it's kind of like beekeeping, I'll be honest, where there's 800 answers. And you ask any psychologist, any psychiatrist, any therapist, any counselor, and you will get 800 different answers for all of these things. You have some people that say that psychopaths are made, they're not born. You have other people that say that they are born, they are not made. I'm telling you, they're all made. I believe that truly. Somehow, in some spiritual way, at the very minimum, they're made. Okay? And so someone did this to you, and God wants to heal it, and God can heal it. But here's the very interesting thing. The world has some answers, but the reason why they don't have as many answers as we would hope that they would have, like they have more answers for cancer than they do for all of these mental illnesses that are actually physical. Okay. So we would hope that the world would have more answers. There's two reasons why they don't. Number one, they want to believe it's just all in your head. They don't want to address it from a physical, like there's something that's physically broken in you. Like if you're born without an arm, or you're born, you know, with, what is that called when the kid has the heart failure, congenital heart failure? Is that right? You're born with some sort of, you know, cleft palate, whatever it is, right? They don't want to believe at all that.
Oh, weird.
I know. It's whatever.
I told the computer
to give XSplit more. I know.
You didn't change anything?
I didn't touch anything, no.
Okay.
We're having some screen issues again.
But this isn't expert. This is the whole screen.
No, it's always been the whole screen.
Okay.
So it's okay. We'll manage. It's very distracting though. If I have to put a sheet over it, we will.
Stop in the name of
There we go.
Jesus.
I clicked off of it, and hopefully that will help.
Okay.
They want to believe it's all in your head, and that it's not an actual physical thing. It is a physical thing, and it is in your head, and it's in your heart, and it's in your soul, and it's in your fiber of being, and the fiber of your being. And there is something to generational curses involved in all of this. There's demonic involved. So they can't address it because there is a spiritual component to it that they simply cannot fathom, comprehend, or fix. Right? So this is what I would say. The reason why the field of mental health is so underplowed is because it exclusively goes hand in hand with a spiritual component. Now, Yes, cancer has a spiritual component. Yes, heart failure has whatever you want to add to it. There's a spiritual component to all sin and sickness, but 1000% above all illnesses, there is a spiritual and demonic component to all mental health issues. And that, my friends, is why the world can only help you so far, because they don't have it. And that's why Lee and I are taking this full frontal approach. We're addressing it mentally. And that's what they do. That's all the YouTube videos will give you. Number one, the only thing that they really can give you is the mental. They can give you a little bit of medication. Okay. Sometimes they can give you mental stuff. They can give you some medication. That's it. We're going to go mental, probably not medication, but we're going to go holistic, nutritional, supplemental, the whole nine, food. And then we're going to go spiritual. And then I'm going to add an arm to the spiritual, and that is deliverance and demonic. Without all four of those approaches, you will never help anybody.
Yeah.
You can't just do one of those four.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what is setting Healing for the Fractured Soul apart and the path that God's taking us down. So Leah, borderline personality disorder. You didn't put that word on the end, but it is. If you're going to look this up.
I know. I didn't want to put it as a disorder.
But if you want to do research on it, right, you really do want to add the word disorder, because that's unfortunately a thing. Borderline personality disorder, again, school of thought. The jury is out on deciding even what that is. Okay. And who can have it. There are people that will tell you that it's not as many people as you think. Lee and I are over here going, y'all got it. Everybody.
Right. So my book that I want to write is we're all a little bit crazy. And it's not a negative faith confession. It's that the Bible, the more I do this show, the more I realize the Bible is all about healing for the fractured soul.
That's it.
And for some reason, we have not been able to, because we're I was listening to somebody talk about Anglo-Saxons are just so analytical. We don't recognize something very, very important. And I'm going to start with this. And Michelle's like, are you practicing for the show?
It was good though. I wanted to record it.
I was practicing. It's just I wanted to get this out. And these are thoughts that I'm thinking. Right off the bat, when we're talking about a borderline personality, Michelle, if I touch you here, you don't feel much because you have your sweatshirt on.
Right.
If I touch you here, you feel more, right? If I were to poke you in the eye, you'd feel it pretty intensely.
I have a better example. My thighs, normal versus after the last 2 days of what you did to them.
So a borderline personality has the same feelings that everybody else has. For all intents and purposes, they just feel more. They feel more, okay? Whether they are born with that, because some people are born more sensitive than others, and that's a good, and if it's nurtured, it's a good thing. Okay. One of the primary characteristics of a borderline personality is this fear of abandonment. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are constantly in fear as an adult, but it means that it was forged in the fire of. Okay.
As a child.
So even an infant. So these are things, and I'm not going to go Freudian on you, because we know that a child before you're having cognitive thoughts, you're having feelings.
That's good, Leah.
And your feelings need to be regulated by an adult. You cannot logically talk to a baby that's crying and just say, stop crying. Because a baby before 12 months isn't no more in charge or in control of anything. They pee, they poop, they eat, all based on what you're doing. They're your sole, complete responsibility, everything down to their emotions. Okay. So if their emotions are sad, it's because they're literally sad. If they're screaming, it's because they're really in pain. The place where we are, our emotions are the absolute, just most honest, are when from 0 to 12 months. There's no way to make it up. There's no way to cognitively say or do anything differently. Your you're led by your feelings. I'm hungry. I'm going to cry. I'm tired. I'm crying. I'm hurt. I'm crying. I need to be held. So I'm laughing. I'm happy. So they are the most pure, the most innocent. They're perfect. They're the way they're supposed to be. All right. And as we develop as children, if our parents are loving and attentive, then those feelings we can learn to trust our environment as it's a safe place.
Mm-hmm.
And if for some reason things go a little bit haywire and your environment is not safe, I'm going to put in this caveat. There are a lot of borderline personality disorder people that did not come from an abusive family. The parents loved as best as they could. They cared for them as best as they could, but they have a child. And I have a friend who had a sibling like this. They could not figure out. They thought she was demon possessed. Why would she be normal, completely normal 1 minute, and just lose it like she was demon possessed? Probably throwing, screaming at things, just hot and cold, and then it would turn off. It's more simple than demon possession, but there is obviously a demonic element there. Somewhere along the way with her, she began to feel things at a different level than other people. And just trying to reason with her actually made her feel more angry because nobody was validating the fact that she was feeling crazy. She was feeling angry. And if you are in a relationship with a borderline person, if they're your husband, your wife, your sister, your brother, your children, and it leans more female, but men can be borderline personality as well. And I'll get to the characteristics of borderline personality, but the basis of what you can identify as a borderline personality is that they will react to situations in a way where you don't understand why they're reacting that way.
You can maybe understand why they're upset,
right?
But not why they're
level
throwing things, why they're, throwing plates against the wall or putting a hole in the wall or something.
What happens is if you get pulled in, it's a tornado. And suddenly, you know what happens in a tornado? The house gets picked up, the car gets picked up, and everything's just flying, and you're flying. And then when you're done, you're like, well, I didn't mean to say that. And the other, I didn't mean to say that. Because your emotions were speaking things that you were not able to have a gatekeep on.
Yeah.
And you weren't actually thinking through the consequences of what you're saying. You're thinking a lot. You're thinking about what you're going to say next. You're thinking. You're not turning off your thinking.
Mm-hmm.
You're not thinking 10 steps ahead. You're not able to think, what do I want out of this situation? How do I obtain that from a calm and rational place? So in a person who's been diagnosed with borderline, there is a lot of help, but getting somebody to recognize that they are borderline is going to be the first step. And I would like for every single one of you listening right now to open up the possibility that you have borderline traits, because I'm going to tell you something, you all do. If you have ever gotten in a disagreement with anyone, that is a teeny tiny borderline trait. If it has ever escalated to where you've ever felt bad for saying something, that's a borderline trait.
Would you like to use me as an example? Because I'm happy for you to do this.
I was not ready to do that. If you're
ready
bursting
for
at the
show?
seams, I'm not ready to use you as an example yet.
You mean at this point in life, or
at this point
in
of the show,
or today's show?
No, but if you'd like to chime in, feel free.
I just think having an example might be very helpful.
Do it.
Listen, Michelle's dirty laundry has all been aired on this show. I don't think there's anything we're keeping back.
I think this episode is going to be so helpful because I would say that because of my upbringing and because all these videos that I'm going to play for you, you're going to see that borderline personality is in a lot more females than you expect. and it is a lot female, but it's male too. And when we have to radically accept how we were raised, what happened to us, or how we might be actually a little bit more emotionally sensitive, because as Christians and as good citizens, we want to be able to communicate with each other in a healthy manner. But sometimes, and I'll give it to you in a second.
Fine, go ahead.
Sometimes our emotions do not allow us to do that. We physically cannot. And so you have to understand something about a person with borderline. And I'm going to talk about the difference between a borderline and a narcissist. And just hold your thought for a second if you can.
It's not going anywhere. It's my whole life.
Okay. So I think one of the best ways to start out with describing a borderline is to contrast them to a narcissist.
That's good.
A narcissist basically is a borderline that has reached the end of all empathy and decided to turn it off. A borderline, in my opinion, from what I've been studying, from what I understand, are those who say, I know that feeling these feelings is pretty awful, but if I turn them off, I will truly become a monster. It's a lot of people with borderline, they'll throw things, they'll get angry, they'll say horrible things, but they will come back and apologize. They will feel badly. They don't want to hurt you. That is not part of what they've set out to do. They want to stop hurting. They might have a false perception of what you said. They most often have a false perception of how you're treating them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But it's a perception nonetheless that they believe is true. And so they act on that. But then, especially in relationships where they love people, they're the ones that are, once the emotion is gone, they're so, oh my gosh, now I have to go apologize. Why did I say that? What did I do? Okay. That's the borderline. The borderline worthlessness, the narcissist feels superior to all the people, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
The borderline needs attention. They want praise because they want adoration. They need to be confirmed as a human being. Whereas the word actually admiration, the narcissist wants admiration. The borderline needs like attention. Like you're doing a good job, Sam, rather than you're the best in the entire world and the rest of the class is dumb. Okay. You see that a lot in politics. The borderline self-destructive. And so the extreme cases, so we're talking, you guys are mostly Christians, you're mostly balanced people. So if you're a borderline, it's not going to show a lot. You're just probably, you've worked through what you don't even know is through Christianity. You've probably jumped through 10, 20 hoops of borderline personality. You're probably on the other side of so much of this. And this is what makes it a little bit more difficult to diagnose in a Christian or a believer who is working so hard on themselves and already has a desire for self-reflection. Okay. But if you're not a Christian, the borderline is going to be self-destructive. They're going to be sleeping around. They are often addicts, drug addicts. They are doing self-destructive behaviors to stop the pain, to fill the pain. Okay. The narcissist actually has a relative stability in life. They don't need drugs. They don't need alcohol. They don't need it. They'll use it. They could be, a lot of narcissists are alcoholics. Okay. But in that, that's probably just a little bit of the pre-narcissist borderline coming out. Because again, from what we've been studying, a narcissist is one step above a borderline. So you're still going to have those borderline personality, like emotions that might pop up. The borderline has a reliance on others, and desires to have people in their life because they enjoy people in their lives. Whereas a narcissist sees all other people as just for personal gain.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Dad. I do love you, and I know you went through borderline because I know you had a horrible childhood. I do. And I have, through all this, I've learned to actually have a tremendous amount of compassion for a narcissist who was broken into being one. It doesn't mean that they're safe to be around, because narcissists will destroy you. Okay. Because they don't know how to love. They don't know how to empathy. And the difference between a narcissist and a borderline, narcissists don't know how to come back and truly apologize. They don't feel bad for what they did. They may feel bad for consequences, as we were talking about.
It's called regret.
But they don't feel regret. They don't feel
No.
empathy.
They feel, when I say it's called regret, they may regret the consequences. That's all they have. But they just kind of regret that. They don't feel
remorse.
Remorse, right.
So a borderline personality is way more common, easier to treat, and you can be in a relationship with a borderline personality. A narcissist, you cannot.
And here's the caveat, though. I don't want to interrupt you. You can have people that have narcissistic traits without them being a clinical narcissist.
Absolutely.
And that's where it gets tricky. You can be in a relationship with those people, but it's going to be difficult because their narcissistic traits are going to flare up in certain areas.
And they need to be working on themselves. And they need to, here's the thing. If you're in a relationship with somebody, they have to have a semblance of remorse.
Yeah.
They have to be able to feel something.
Right.
Okay. They have to care about you in some way.
I guess the reason why I want to differentiate is because we often say when we're talking about, clinical narcissism, we say, and Leah and I have had this discussion as we've been going through this, trying to
It's hard.
These
It's
terms
hard
are very
because
difficult.
there's like 40 points. Which ones do you fit? And some people don't fit in all the points.
When we tell people that narcissists do not feel empathy, then it feels very black and white.
They do feel they
because you can have a person that has a ton of narcissistic traits, but you know that they do feel empathy in different areas, and so they're somewhere in between.
well, and then
You know what I'm
there's
saying?
not to make it more confusing, but narcissists and even psychopaths have empathy in that they're able to sense how you feel. That's the basic of empathy, but actual compassionate empathy.
Who was it the other day when we were listening to one of them and they were like, pretty much everybody is a narcissist to some degree because
Even the victim, especially
you
the
putting
victims,
on your face mask first is a narcissist, right?
Yeah.
Like we all think about ourselves. We have to feed ourselves, we have to clothe ourselves. I actually don't categorize that in narcissism because that's just called being human. But that's kind of the trajectory and the line that that we're dealing with. Again, all these phrases are new. We're using them because they are a language and they're helpful to help us categorize. They're words that people kind of already understand. You could apply any other words.
So borderline traits are really going to help. They're really going to be good for this show if you have borderline traits.
Yeah.
Because even if you're not full on, like, well, I don't fit the diagnostic criteria. Let me explain to you guys. I don't want you all to be put in a box.
Don't do that.
Of who you are, what you are. But it's helpful if you see some narcissistic qualities and you can recognize those in yourself. That's pretty good. That's good. Let's work on that. If you can recognize some of this, the borderline personalities, it's good. Let's work on that. Why do I feel this way? Okay. Why do I do these things? And when we talked about schizophrenia, so schizophrenia is characterized by a primordial phase where you just kind of go numb in life.
Prodromal
phase.
That's a different word. Primordial is a word. It's called prodromal. It's a hard word.
Prodromal phase where you're going numb in life, loss of appetite, loss of all things, and most clinicians would call you depressive. Then what happens is the psychosis sets in. You begin to see things, maybe
It's
hallucinate.
called a break from reality.
So my Uncle Jack, we didn't recognize that, like in the past, he's heard voices. We thought it was the alcoholism. He used to be an alcoholic. He was misdiagnosed. We're working on maybe, we're just learning a lot of this stuff happening right now in our own family. It's kind of great to kind of point some things out. COVID actually triggered like a schizophrenic break in my Uncle Jack because he was seeing a cup on top of the TV.
We didn't know what it was. We didn't know what was causing it.
We even told this to his doctor, and his doctor was like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, well, let's go back a little bit in his history. And, he's heard voices before. He's had visions before. oh, well, maybe it wasn't alcoholism that was causing these hallucinations.
I was able to, in talking, I discovered this, and then I brought it to Leah, and I said, Leah, Uncle Jack went through the prodromal phase
did.
in his late
30s.
30s. And that's when everything started to change for him.
And we thought
And
he was
people
just,
thought it was,
our whole family was like, he's just
depressed.
He's
a depressed alcoholic. And if he had been, I don't know that he would have been able to receive help at that time anyway. And he was having seizures. He was having epileptic seizures.
Well, he lived in the house across the street that's been since torn down. Not across the street, but in the back of the house that my great uncle Charlie had built. And the windows had broken, and animals were living in there. There was no water. There was no electricity. And everybody thought he was depressed because his wife left him. Now, we all know from our research on schizophrenia that stress can overwhelm the system and then cause a psychotic break. And as your brain is not able to function with everything that's happening, then your psyche breaks down. And this happened in like during my cousin's high school years, and they used to have to come over here and shower in the basement. And and even before that final phase, as the prodromal phase was taking place, he couldn't clean, and he would get angry.
He lost his job.
Yes,
and his wife left him. It all just hit at once.
And my mom would go, but this was part of it. My mom would go and clean. So one of the say it again.
Prodromal.
Well, you can't take care of yourself. You can't clean. Right. You can't bathe. You can't do those things. And then, so these things need to be diagnosed so that we can help the people. And we actually presented, and I'm going to cry thinking about this. We're very open and honest in our family because we think that that is actually more helpful, especially when spoken in love. And we actually spoke to our Uncle Jack, who we feel has a little dementia going on as well. And we said, I think, Uncle Jack, you have schizophrenia, and that right now he's not in a place that's dangerous. Like he talks to the TV and stuff. He talks in his room, but he's in a place he's okay. So he doesn't, like, maybe we get him some help, but like back in the 90s, a doctor and a therapist would have been incredibly helpful. To help him through a lot of these things. And so he didn't have to live. Like, we and my mom brought him back from the brink of death. God did.
Amen.
And when we moved in, like, he could not take care of himself. He was throwing his pee outside of the window. He had a mold under his carpet this thick. His teeth were all rotting. He was just, he was not living. And everybody said he's just an alcoholic. But alcoholism and nicotine addiction are two symptoms of schizophrenia. So I want to put that out there because we're dealing with psychological issues. And if you are just going to point at somebody and say, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, Michelle, maybe I think you can talk towards this. They can't. And even with a borderline, if you're borderline or you're dealing with a borderline, you cannot talk to them in a way that you would a normal, healthy person because they cannot, if they don't have the tools to regulate their emotions, then they can't regulate their emotions the way other people do. They physically cannot. So they have to be given other tools. Then they can. And this is the frustrating part for a lot of people in relationships and a little bit for myself, because I'm frustrated that nobody's taught me this. I'm frustrated that nobody is teaching other people this, so you have to have a major issue, good insurance, and go to a therapist by yourself or end up on YouTube.
All right, I want to jump in. So I want to make sure that this is said so that you guys understand our family dynamics. When I presented this to Uncle Jack, it was in a car ride on the way to the doctors.
Very recently.
It was just a few weeks ago when we first started talking about schizophrenia, and I got so excited. And I presented this to him, and he was getting out of the car, and I don't remember exactly what I said. And he goes, "No, I'm just really glad because I've always known that there's been something wrong." And so Uncle Jack is totally fine with us sharing this because this is part of his testimony. He's doing amazing. Like Uncle Jack is a walking, living, breathing miracle. And to have this diagnosis is probably one of the most freeing things, because what happens with these people that go through the prodromal phases after a stressful life event is the people around them judge them and say, why can't you just pull yourself together?
Why can't you work?
Why can't you do so he has had all of these judgments from everyone in his life since this happened. So the last 20 some odd years. And to be freed from that guilt is a very freeing thing. And I was talking to somebody a month or so ago, and they had just gotten a diagnosis of autism. And it was also very freeing to them because they're like, wait, I'm not just a bad person that has these, these quirks. There's something wrong there. And so that's how I feel about schizophrenia. It's probably my favorite topic. It's probably going to be the Mr. Holland's opus of our lives. Like I feel like it is, in addition to all of these other things. But schizophrenia, I think I understand very, very deeply because I had a brush with it. And what I mean by that is when I'm doing our craft shows and I tell everybody that my endocrine system crashed 8 years ago, and then God gave me the recipe for the Healing for the Soul essential oil blend, I came to realize after our episode on schizophrenia, what actually happened is I was headed into a prodromal phase that if Leah had not stepped in and said, because I came to her and I said, there is something wrong with me. I do not want to live. I was depressed. I just wanted to lay around. My anxiety was super high, and I could tell like there is something wrong with me. I've never experienced anything like this in my life. This was roughly 8 years ago. So what Leah did, not only did she go into prayer, but she said, okay, full stop.
Well, we recognize what was triggering it. And
Stress.
Here's what's very interesting is lack of sleep can trigger schizophrenic breaks. And so with our pet sitting business, we're up really late, as you can see, and then we're up very early.
Yeah, so I wasn't getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, our dogs were dying. And it was constant changing of diapers and taking them outside. And like, do we put them down? Do we not put them down? There was so much stress. And I was dealing with a very, very stressful event with my two best friends at that time. And so like life was at an all-time height of cortisol for me. And so what happens is it's usually a rise in cortisol that gets so high that your body shuts everything down. Yeah. So now you have nothing left. And what that leaves you with is depression, anxiety. You can't move. You can't do anything. So immediately, I would say after 2 months of that going on, maybe not quite, I don't know how long it was, Leah said, okay, Michelle, you're going to stay at home. I'm going to do all the outside pet visits. You stay home and just do home stuff and watch the dogs that are here. We did end up putting our dogs down. The situation with my two best friends got worked out, at least temporarily at that time. That made me very happy, actually. They got engaged and that didn't work out. But anyway, so all of these things, everything, we were able to curb what would have turned into Michelle developing, I truly believe, schizophrenia. Same exact thing happened last year because of SK after the eclipse event. So high cortisol, super high stress. Patriot Gallery had just almost died. Leah and I are getting into it. SK is stepping in, doing mind hamburger games on my brain. And he is purposefully keeping me on next to no sleep. I'm probably getting 4 hours of sleep a night, and everything explodes. Boom, goes into now God actually, and Leah's prayers and the Healing for the Fractured Soul was able, I don't know if we had started it quite then yet, but like
it started in June.
I was able to come out of it before. So now that we know, what makes me so excited, like I said, I know we're talking about borderline, but what makes me so excited about the schizophrenia is I want us all to be aware of the warning signs and the things that can cause it, because it's really important when a child gets vaccines, those are bad. The worst thing for a child is when they have a reaction to a vaccine, they go to the doctor prescribes antibiotics and it kills all the gut bacteria in the child's gut. And then they end up with autism because of what happened in their gut. And they suffer with that for the rest of their lives because of these events. Schizophrenia is much like that. You have an event that can then cause you to have it's not a disease, but a mental disorder for the rest of your life, for something that could have just happened to anybody. Okay. So it's really important for me, because I have been on the edge of it twice, for everybody to understand what these risks are. Now, back to the borderline. I know that I have, especially been in the past, probably very clinically diagnosable as borderline personality disorder, starting when I was a very young child. Again, this is done to you a lot of times for various reasons. I didn't have the same connections that you should have as a parent regulating the child that Leah was able to have, with my mom being there all the time. Okay, because I was only with my mom for the first like 6 months, and then I was with my dad a lot, and my mom ended up going to work. And so I developed different, Leah's going to get into this as far as this fear of abandonment goes. I felt that way with my mom my entire childhood.
So last year, like the year before, almost 2 years ago, actually, we're in January now. When that happened, Michelle was on a break of a schizophrenic break, because what is happening with a schizophrenic break is that you are, and it can be caused, like, have you ever heard that? Like, you're going to make me go crazy.
Yeah.
So SK and an abusive psychopath can make you into can bring on things like schizophrenia, can bring on these things, like make you go crazy. Or it can bring on a psychosis, which is a break with reality. That's not necessarily schizophrenia. So like you're hearing and seeing voices, but you have broken with reality. And now you have the diagnosis, clinical diagnosis, is that you do hear audibly or internally or see things that are not there.
Right.
Okay. So there are different levels of psychosis, but it's helpful to kind of put them into a basket. When you have full-blown schizophrenia, you are more likely to have those auditory hallucinations. Like, your brain is literally creating things that you see, and you're literally hearing voices. And those people, I'm going to tell you here on Resistance Chicks, might need medication.
Sure.
Because you can't even function and begin to work if you're actually, like, you're seeing, like, medication.
They're tripping. So your body will not stop producing dopamine. The same thing applies to a lot of people that have like Hashimoto's and different disorders like that, where the body is producing too many white blood cells, or, just different, like an immune system responses.
Yes.
Is your body creating too much of an immune system response? The same thing happens with schizophrenia, where your body shuts down, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we need to turn the system back on. Let's just send a bunch of dopamine. And so then you're always tripping.
So here's the thing. I am not going to ever encourage anybody to take medication.
But there's natural things that you can do as well.
There are natural things, and I would lean towards that. But there are people who literally see things, and we need to help people like that.
Right.
And they're hearing voices, and we need. I think Timothy McVeigh was schizophrenic. He was hearing voices and seeing things, and there's a spiritual component where we may need to cast out some demons. There is a nutritional component, and I just wanted to throw this out there. We're not talking about bipolar when we're talking about borderline. That is completely different.
But it presents, it seems similar on the surface.
Yeah, but I would say that bipolar seems a little bit more schizophrenic, because a bipolar is going to be manic. Like, usually you're going to have a true bipolar person has periods of manic where they don't need any sleep. Okay. They're going. They're super energetic. They may be gamblers. A lot of bipolar are drug addicts, and then they could crash, but they don't do so in the same day. This is
It's a time period. It can go on for months.
So they're just like, go, 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 go. And so those are a lot of the drug addicts out there that are just like, I got to get high and I can't stop. And this is who I am right now for like months or weeks at a time. We have a dear friend who was diagnosed with that. They actually took a trek into the Canadian wilderness and just in the cold, almost froze to death and like then reset their system. It was like, I need to come back to reality. I need to come back to my family. And maybe they want to tell their story one time on the show. And so a bipolar is on the edge of psychosis as well. And the difference with a bipolar and a borderline is the borderline could flip on you and get super angry, and then they're good. They're switching. They're switching and splitting in their personality 10 times in a day.
When we use the word psychosis, just translate that to break from reality.
But a bipolar is going to have more of a permanent break. It's like they're just going to Vegas and we're doing this for a month, right? You can spot what's going to flip in a schizophrenic. You can spot what's going to split, what's going on with the bipolar, and you can spot what's going on with the borderline. With a borderline, it's a little bit more calm. You don't have to panic as much because they'll come back to reality maybe within 5 and 10 minutes.
That's good, Leah.
The emotions leave their system relatively quickly, okay? I'm saying this as a word of caution. A bipolar, when they flip, they flipped. So why is that important to know? You got to catch it. And I was talking to a friend of mine whose husband is bipolar, diagnosed as bipolar, and hasn't had an episode in many years, but used to have many. And she said she could watch his eyes, watch his body language. And when she learned it, because she went through many years of prayer and fasting and therapy and just deep prayer with people, like, where is my husband? Where is he gone? He's gone. I don't understand where he left. When he left the building for good. And she didn't know when he was coming back. But they learned to identify when he was getting ready to leave the building. And as soon as they could identify it, they can stop it.
That's good.
Okay. And since then, he still has some mental breaks of fear and anxiety, but they're stopping it from when he still could leave the building, but he hasn't because they learned to stop it. The same thing you can do with the schizophrenic. It's a little bit harder if they're full-blown schizophrenic and they have the psychosis and maybe they become angry at you and persecutory towards you. That's going to be difficult. Prayer is going to be your number one thing. There's a lot of nutrition for schizophrenic, and I know we're talking about borderline, but I'm throwing this out there while I have it. Niacin flushes in the morning and in the evening. If you can get them to take some brain nootropics, like there's a new one out called Brain Awake. What you're trying to do is keep the brain working.
That's good, Leah.
Okay? Because what's happening is the brain is like a clock and it's tick, tick, ticking, and then it's missing something. And then it gets off of the rhythm. And that's schizophrenia. So if you can keep the brain physically in the rhythm, you don't necessarily need to be on an anti-dopamine, like a dopamine suppressant. There is cognitive, and I'm reading a book right now on cognitive behavioral therapy for those who can recognize their schizophrenia and they've been diagnosed and they want to make a difference. Like if you can talk to someone like is his name John Nash? Mm-hmm. John Nash in a person, and you can convince them that they have it. Even when they're going through the schizophrenic break, it may take a few times. When they come back to reality, if you can talk to them and say, listen, you had a schizophrenic break, the delusions that you're happening, they may not be real. They may be. They may not be. Will you work with me to help you discover if they're real or not? Okay? Because you cannot tell a schizophrenic that their delusions are not real. Mm-hmm. Okay? you've got to find a way. And they have in the UK, they have CBT, and it's working so well because they're helping schizophrenics to see and understand
For themselves.
whether what they are feeling and believing and experiencing
Is real.
Am I being followed in the mall? Okay, so how do I feel when I'm in the mall? What is my anxiety level? All right. And how did I do today? Or what's the consequences of me feeling like I'm being watched all the time? Okay. So we're gonna work on the schizophrenia. Now back to the borderline, because I kind of wanted to put those three will overlap. So borderline overlaps with bipolar and narcissist, and schizophrenia overlaps with bipolar. Does that make sense? They also, in another way, look like dissociative identity disorder. All of them do.
Which is multiple personalities.
So, and the reason being is that dissociative identity disorder can be its own standalone thing to when you were broken as a child, you began to have a full-blown personality develop with different aspects of your mind. But with DID, dissociative identity disorder, you can have some that are schizophrenic, you can have some that are bipolar, and you can have some that are borderline. And so we've got to encompass and help each personality deal with. And so it's a much more complex, but it's a much more beautiful part of a person because I believe that a DID person, from what we understand, are some of the most highly intelligent people on the planet.
Meaning it takes a lot of brain power in order to do what they do.
Exactly. It takes a lot of brain power. So when a dissociative person begins to integrate back in, they are amazing. They can do so many things. It takes a lot of brain power to actually dissociate. Otherwise, if you don't dissociate,
You'll go crazy.
You go crazy. You develop the neurosis. You develop a lot of these things, and you become, in my opinion, dissociative identity is a self-protective mechanism from God to keep you from becoming the abuser, from becoming the perpetrator. That you take the pain and the frustration and the anger and you split it off into different parts so that they never come back together. So you don't, and you'll notice this, most DID patients are nonviolent. They're not the ones you see on TV. The borderline is more likely to harm you than DID. Mm-hmm. And borderlines aren't likely to harm you. They're more likely to harm themselves. Schizophrenics can harm you, but not even really. You're looking at the narcissist and the psychopath, because those two are the personalities that lack empathy, and you really have to lack empathy to harm, right? And so what's happening in an abused person, which is DID, is 100% created by a bad childhood. 100%. Like you're not born with it. It's 100%. So that's why they don't treat it with like medication or anything. It's normally like therapy. Borderline, you can actually be born with higher sensitivity that if it's not curbed and nurtured, then it's not necessarily your parents' fault. And same thing with schizophrenics. You can have
a great childhood. Normal. That's what I'm getting with. It's super important to understand with schizophrenia. It can happen to anybody. Mm-hmm. It can literally happen to anybody.
And it's not because of your parents. Like right. your parents.
It can be. It can be though.
Your parental upbringing is probably going to create another kind of personality disorder, not necessarily schizophrenia.
Is literally just, and I can boil it down to you very simple: high stress, unmanaged, that goes into the prodromal phase of depression. And you don't get treatment, you don't get help, you don't get any ease from that, can turn into schizophrenia and psychosis.
And it develops like high school and on once you've got a level of autonomy. Mm-hmm. So DID can happen as a child, borderline can happen as a child, and bipolar can happen as a child. Okay. So that's kind of the basis of understanding the differences. I want to a little bit more with the borderline versus narcissism because they are sisters. One is evil, one is good, and when you're dealing with a borderline that seems to be malignant, you could be dealing with more of a narcissist. And so I was watching an interview with a guy. He's like, if you're dealing with a woman who is mean and nasty and the love bombing is not borderline. Love bombing is narcissist. A narcissist is setting out to pretend like they love you, whereas a borderline does.
That's good, Leah.
A borderline wants to be there with you. They just have their own emotional dysregulation that makes sometimes them say, I hate you. I never want to see you again. Don't leave me. Mm-hmm. Okay. And you could end up with divorce papers from a borderline. And then they're like, I don't want to do this. I didn't mean it. Right. Whereas a narcissist is just looking out for numero uno. Right. Borderline patients may gravitate towards impulsivity, self-harm. The cutters are not narcissists at all. The cutters are all borderlines. Engaging in intense relationships. Borderlines, I'm not going to say they're all this way, but you probably like them. They're probably really nice because they enjoy being nice. They enjoy relationships. They will have, though, once they've tested you, once you're in a relationship, those relationships, especially without God, especially without Jesus, are very unstable those intimate relationships. Constantly unstable, ever shifting. They don't know what their self-image is, a sense of personal identity, frequent mood swings, emotional dysregulation. They will dissociate. A feeling that your body or reality isn't actually real. An intense fear of abandonment, which seems to create unhealthy defense mechanisms that aim to avoid or eliminate potential abandonment. They appear needy and clingy or in need of constant validation. BPD tend to swing from idolizing someone and adoring someone they love to just hating them. You could just write them a love note and think that, oh my gosh, this is the most awesome person in the world. And then they forget to load the dishwasher. And then they kind of don't really care that they didn't do that. And you start going back and forth. And then I hate you. You just wrote them 5 minutes ago a love letter. Okay. This is not making sense, but to them, it makes perfect sense. They also report feeling completely empty and alone at times. Some report low self-esteem, unworthy. A narcissist has no genuine desire to connect with others, and there's no underlying fear of abandonment. The root of narcissism is a fear of unworthiness and a very fragile ego. They have grandiosity, a sense of being superior to others, along with manipulation and exploitation. You may feel that the borderline is exploiting you, but they're not trying to. The narcissist is literally trying to get just get something out of you. Okay. Beliefs are rooted in being more special, superior, attractive, and important. Inability to understand or relate to others' needs or feelings. An inclination to exaggerate achievements, talents, and personal events. An expectation for unwarranted or consistent praise, admiration, and favors.
Again, reminder.
This is the narcissism.
We're talking about narcissism.
I'm trying to contrast here. Finding it easy and pleasurable to take advantage of situations. That is not a borderline. Borderlines are not on that kind of edge of psychosis where they want to hurt people or want to take advantage of people. That's not the MO. That's not their problem. Other people have these problems. That's just not necessarily the problem of a borderline general person. All right. Obstacles that they share, though: emotional dysregulation, interpersonal relationship turmoil and instability, an intense need to be approved of and accepted by the people around them, maybe have some impulsive behaviors, and a dual mental, they can have some different, issues like substance abuse or depression.
I want to insert something there because I don't, whatever Leah has in store for the show, that's fine. I can give you my story in another time, but since I know it, I want to insert a couple of caveats of examples for you guys to understand when they say the things that overlap as far as this need of being approved of by others. In my personal experience of the borderline version of that, never existed with anyone other than Leah and kind of my mom. So I have had a constant need of Leah thinking, and I've grown out of this. Not I've healed out of it. I should think is a better way of putting it. But at the height of, like especially my younger years in my 20s and my 30s, a lot of the things that would trigger me were when I felt like Leah didn't see me as an equal, as smart enough, as spiritual enough, all of those things. So I didn't have a need to be approved of so much by all of these other people like a narcissist would. Like everybody that they encounter, they just want, people to think the best of them. Mostly, I haven't really been able to even identify that because most of the time, I'll just be honest, everyone has always loved Leah and I. I've never had an issue. Like everywhere we go, people are always like, wow, you guys are so, nice and kind.
Because of who we are. If we were not raised to be Christians, if we were not raised to be actually very extrovertedly loving of other people and caring of other people, then that need would never even be filled and it would just be a dark black hole.
Right. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I can't identify with a need for other people to love me because I've never had the lack of that.
So can you see and I can think of a person who needs validation. And I know borderlines who are borderline with people who are not their family and lose it with people that are not their family. And that needs you to praise them for their outfit, for the thing that they did. And they don't need it in a narcissistic way. They just really need validation. Oh, your Christmas decorations look really good. They can actually breathe a sigh of relief if somebody tells them that.
Sure.
Because they're kind of on edge. Mm-hmm. And they're constantly in need of that. And it's a awful place to be if you are a borderline. And we're going to get into this tonight. I feel very emotional this evening for people who are borderline, who do not have
Jesus.
Yes.
Loving family.
If they don't have a stable person, because I did not know this, especially even until today when I was researching for this episode. This is going to sound counterintuitive because you don't want to be in a relationship with a narcissist.
Yeah.
I know two female people. One stuck a knife in herself 3 inches deep and had emotional instability as a teenager. She's borderline and we didn't know it and her parents didn't know it. We didn't know what to call it. They would just call us asking for prayer and thinking it was a thing, like a family friend had recently died and she was screaming in the kitchen and then she just took the knife and just stuck it in herself, right? That is unfortunately, and we want to do this and we want to have borderline awareness, because if we don't help some of these borderlines, especially high school girls are very, especially recently, are idealizing suicide. They're cutting. Why are they doing this? I believe they're doing it because their moms are working and their moms weren't there to regulate their emotion. And they have this intense fear of abandonment that they don't know that they have. And this person who she was really close to, this girl that I knew from in high school, that, she wasn't trying to kill herself. Borderlines necessarily aren't always trying to kill themselves, but they do want to end the pain. And lots of times they think, well, maybe if I just end myself, it'll end the pain. So this is a very serious topic to talk about. When we prayed for her, we met her in person, and then I was shocked because I didn't understand how borderline worked to see her married and happy, and all those emotional swings were gone. And then I have a friend whose sister was borderline, and we didn't know this, but now I can diagnose her very easily as borderline because she had these just swings of anger and frustration, and the parents didn't know what to do, and my friend didn't know what to do. And she married, and her sister's like, we get along great. She's fine. I actually have proof that in many cases, what a female borderline needs is a stable male to say, I'm here. As if that man was raised in a healthy environment,
Yeah, that's good, Leah.
he can actually be that emotional stability. This is why it's not good, not just for men to be alone, but particularly, and I say this as a single, as a single female who desperately would love a strong, healthy male to balance me.
You get Jesus.
Yes. And then we're going to talk about that tonight if you don't. But it is very true that and I've got 4 couples tonight actually on one video.
Awesome.
With 4 women who are borderline, with 4 husbands who did not know what to do about their wives, but they wanted to work it out.
Yeah.
And so that they have been working with the borderline wives, and the borderline wives have been working, and they find what works for each person. And because I Googled this, I said, is it a thing for younger women who are borderline to get married to a stable man and then their borderline personality go away? It's 100% a thing, because you can actually as you grow older, the borderline personality does mellow out naturally. Even it'll come back, and schizophrenia actually can come postmenopausal because of hormones and things like that. And it can be re-triggered if you're not in a stable relationship. So I recognize and I know all of your comments, and I feel for you ladies who your spouse is not that guy. And maybe you're borderline, and maybe he made you borderline. Okay. And so you are the woman throwing the pan at the refrigerator like Matt's mom used to do, because she's just so frustrated, and her husband is a narcissist. If you're married to a narcissist, I'm going to tell you something. You might be better off divorced for your own mental stability, because that narcissist is going to continue to, and I mean a full-blown narcissist who cannot and is incapable of loving at all. Like that's a demon, basically. So you need to be able to at least find a stable love for yourself with God. And I'm going to give you some of those tips as well. So I thought that was incredibly interesting that a borderline, and I have a clip. I don't know which one it is. I
don't have any of your tabs up yet because I wasn't sure if they were all
Go ahead
up
and
yet.
bring them up. They're all up. Where a borderline actually needs a stable relationship to get healthy. And I didn't like that. I think that...
Well, that's without Jesus.
I think that, here's this one. BBT, recovery requires good relationships. Okay, yeah.
Hang on. I have to switch screens and everything because I don't have it ready.
Okay,
So
no
keep
hurry,
talking.
no hurry. As a Christian, we have a tool belt that the world doesn't have. That you have Jesus.
Wait.
What? We froze.
No, we lost audio. Hang on 1 second. Let me make sure that the audio is back here.
Hello? No, it's not back.
Wait, no, it's just frozen. The audio should be here.
There we go. We're back. Okay.
Let me see if it's, let me check on the audio here real quick.
Okay. So with Jesus, and I want to put this caveat in, because I don't want you to feel like you have to have a stable relationship. And quite frankly, it feels a little bit selfish.
Yeah.
That you would require a stable relationship.
Yeah.
Because that's asking a lot of other people.
Yeah, you can't do that. You can't put that
because
kind of
a
pressure on somebody
borderline
else.
person is highly emotionally reactive, and 9 times out of 10 it's going to say mean things to their partners or to their loved ones, even if they don't mean it. So if you can handle that for a little bit, or if you are the blessed couple that just getting married fixes your female partner, that's great. But if you've got a borderline child, if you've got a borderline mom, we're going to have to deal with other things. We're going to have to help them and help each other.
All right, we ready?
Mm-hmm.
Deeply and profoundly believe that without a network of relationships, it is impossible for an individual for borderline personality disorder to adequately recover. And it needs to be a set of relationships that are mentalizing, which is just a silly word for saying that they feel understood, treated as agents, taken seriously, that where decisions are shared with them and are not simply made about them, where another person becomes interested in their subjective state sufficiently for them to start feeling trust of that person, which enables them then to open their mind to a completely different way of looking at the rest of their lives, which probably is what's ultimately curative. I can imagine that even without a therapist, a change in social environment can move a person from a situation of mistrust to a situation of trust, where they're once again open to the social world around them. And to me, it's that movement that actually generates recovery and generates a recovery of the capacity to be aware appropriately of the social world. There we are. That's it. That's all it.
Okay, that's good. I want to play the video right next to it, and then we can kind of break that down. Oh no, it's actually over here because you opened it up at a different place, right? It's like 2 from this little swirly thing.
Okay. Escape behavior?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
One more?
Oh, wait a
Nope,
minute. I
that's the one we
thought I
just
had
played.
it up.
Hang on. Wait, what's this one?
Hang on. It's over here actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Life is a great teacher, and psychotherapy can accelerate the lessons that life would otherwise teach. The lessons are that it never works. They never can sustain the relationship which is based on this idea that somebody will never leave them or will never disagree with them or never disapprove of them. It just isn't going to happen.
Pause that real quick.
Now, when
So I'm not over the moon with the whole borderlines are afraid of abandonment. He just explained, yes, leaving you is one part of it, but disagreeing and disapproving, those are all the same thing.
That's good, Leah.
So a borderline is hates disapproval and doesn't want to be have somebody feel like they're not adequate.
Well, so I watched a movie last night where the female says to the male, are we having our first argument? And he's like, no. And she's like, well, I just felt like we were on 2 different sides of this. And he said, we're always on the same side. Just let's start there. We're always on the same side. So I think that what Leah's saying is with this fear of abandonment isn't necessarily I'm afraid that this person will leave me, but rather I'm afraid that the unit that we have created, the connection, the cohesiveness of our connection, I'm afraid that you will leave me from that
If
place.
you don't see it my way,
yes,
then
that's a fear of abandonment of us being together and close.
I need you to see it my way.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the same thing. And I feel like that's so much more understandable for people, even though there is this idea of fear of abandonment. Like that's a very basic primal feeling.
you get a treater involved in this, the same thing can happen. There's high hopes that this is a person who's going to really care, but the hour ends, they go home, they have their own life. It is inherent in the therapy relationship that there are limitations of availability and shared attention with other people.
Right.
Some patients get reconciled to this, and they create relationships which are not so exclusive or where their hopes are not so high. But part and parcel of that often is some kind of depression that's associated with that they will never, ever get what they feel they really need, and that they have to settle for many relationships that are more stabilizing. Each of them serves some of this function, but none of them is really, really fulfilling. So it's the unusual borderline, but it can happen, who can get into a relationship with truly corrective of this basic handicap. It can sometimes occur through a stable partnership with another adult. A few times with therapists, but largely it's the therapy relationship is a springboard for doing better in the outside world.
Do you
and you might be able
understand
to get a
that?
partner in the outside world, which really is
That's the
fulfilling. And
healing.
after a period of time, your attachment becomes stabilized and more secure. Sometimes it happens when someone with borderline personality disorder has a child, and the child provides a corrective relationship. It's a kind of non-contingent relationship where they really can feel fulfilled, and they take into themselves a better sense of themselves as a good person, and that then gets internalized. That's the word I was looking for. That makes them more secure in their other relationships. But it doesn't happen that often. I think inherent in what I've said is there's a lot of good luck. You find a partner who is really able to manage the vicissitudes which occur in the first couple of years of feeling rejected unnecessarily, perceiving anger when it isn't there, being very overreactive to criticisms, and but sustains it. And over time, the person learns to trust that person, and in the process of that corrective relationship, internalizes the idea that maybe I'm basically okay, and maybe I'm not such a toxin. And that's the way it would occur with a child also.
So my mom said that when she had me, that she felt love for the first time. And I know that she was raised in a very stressful and chaotic environment. And we've talked about this a lot, and we try to use ourselves as examples. And with borderline, I have a whole lot of examples around that aren't just me and my family, but I know so many. And even people who work on it. I have a friend who often, and especially when we first met them, would lose it on us. And it would be so strange because it would come out of nowhere. Nobody that I'm going to mention, but I've had a few clients go off on me on things that just don't make sense.
And then it's almost like they expect you to walk away from them. And when we give the love and the understanding and the it's okay, we're not leaving.
Yeah, so I can know when somebody's an abusive person and we do walk away.
Sure.
And then I can see when you're not acting rationally, you're a broken person. And even though you've probably done this 10 times to me, what's interesting is a true borderline will come back and apologize. And it's hard to apologize.
Yeah.
But a borderline's used to it because they need to do it a lot.
Right.
And when you have a borderline adult who will apologize, please work with them, because to have an adult like friend or even acquaintance come and apologize to you, that takes a lot of effort.
Well, and
so please give them grace and time and prayer.
There's a lot of confusion and misconception around people that will hurt you and then they just come back and apologize. Abusive men, especially husbands, will often do that. And so there's a big difference between just having a toxic, abusive husband and having a borderline husband who genuinely wants to seek help, who genuinely doesn't mean to fly off the handle. And then you can work with that person, but you will need to seek professional help, spiritual professional help, especially if it's a male.
Especially if there's violence in the relationship.
Right. If there's violence, you're probably gonna have to split homes. You're probably gonna have to split up.
Well,
okay.
It depends. I mean, like if there's actually physical violence, yes. If somebody threw something,
I guess what I'm trying to caution some of you is that just because I think a lot of you are like, well, I've known people who they'll do this thing and then they come back and apologize and they're just manipulating me.
Yeah.
Those people exist. But that's not what we're talking about here tonight. We're talking about people
who truly feel remorse,
are mortified that they acted that way, that hated that they acted that way, and are genuinely sorry that they acted that way and don't want to act that way again.
So borderlines tend to feel like they are monsters and there are different levels of borderline, by the way. There are different kinds. So there is one very specific, easily identifiable borderline, and those are the ones that lose it. They get angry and yell, throw things. There are 4 kinds. There is an internalizing borderline that yells at self, that hurts self, that doesn't have somebody to yell at. They're more likely to be your cutters. Okay? They are internalizing their frustration and anger at themselves. they're just self-mutilating in their thoughts. And that is a different kind of borderline. But if you push them far enough, it will come out at you. And they will tell you the things that they think about you when here's the thing, a internalized borderline still has the love-hate, but they don't vocalize it.
Right.
So when they get a chance and they blow up, then they're going to tell you the things that they have felt in their brokennesses, and they will tell you, I'm leaving. They will tell you, I hate you. They will tell you, I should have never been in a relationship with you. They will tell you the things that they hammer you with silently. So that's another kind of borderline.
Let me read some comments and then we'll go to Leah's next video. R.H. Wagoner says, my daughter is spot on borderline. She's been to all these treatments, etc., over the years, and 0 counselors have diagnosed her.
Oh.
And then Chris says that often psychologists hold off on the label of borderline because it is like a death sentence for the suffering people to find future therapists who are willing to be in the long process of healing borderline personality disorder.
You know, that's interesting because there are 2 sets of thoughts, and I guess I tend to gravitate to the answer thoughts because actually borderline is the easiest to treat.
As far as narcissism, psychopathy, schizophrenia,
Depression, anything.
Bipolar.
Because a borderline necessarily is not...
well, they haven't had a break from reality.
Right.
They are not in psychosis per se.
You can talk to them once they're down.
Exactly. They come out of it.
And they recognize that they have fits of anger.
Exactly.
And so they're actually the most sound-minded of all the mental problems.
It's very difficult to treat these other people because a lot of times, because they're in literal psychosis where they have a break from reality that they live in, you can't really, and they believe it. So when I say that someone has a break from reality, I need you to translate it like this. They believe that their reality is as real as you believing the sky is blue and my name is Michelle. Like they know it in their knower. Like they know it beyond, like, I am telling you, the CIA has tapped my cell phone.
Yeah.
And maybe they have. But I'm telling you, like this one guy that I was best friends with John Lennon. He wasn't, right? That was one of the schizophrenia. I think it was John Lennon or something like that. Episodes that I watched, like name something, whatever it is that they believe, the John Nash, right? The aliens are helping me. Okay. So you can't tell them that the sky is not blue, just as much as nobody can tell me that the sky is not blue and my name is not Michelle. You're not going to convince them of that. They believe it. That's called psychosis. That's the break from reality that you can't tell them out of it. Now, if you can get one of these people when they're not in a break to understand that they have breaks, then you can use things like the cognitive behavior therapy to help them and the DBT to help them to see when they're having a break. That's different, but only they can discover for themselves the things that they are seeing. So that's what we're talking about, a break from reality. Borderline personality disorder does not have the break from reality. They have a break from self-control, right? A very clear break from self-control. And that they have remorse from. And they come out of it very quickly. And that's when you can talk to them and then really work with them. So when Leah says it's easier to deal with them, that is why. It's very, very difficult to deal with people that are in psychosis, which is a break from reality.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Let's go to the TED Talk that I liked with, if this might go to your question. I thought I had this one up, my TED Talk one. Where is that?
Wicked Psych says, who said people need to feel good all the time? If you feel uncomfortable sometimes, doesn't it mean you are paying attention? I think it depends on the feeling, but yeah, it does depend on the feeling. And I do agree with that. We're not supposed to always be basing like, how do I feel?
Right.
Right.
Let's go ahead and do the father of borderline.
That was right there.
All right. Let's do this one.
You want to start from the beginning?
Yes. To kind of talk about what's the diagnosis of it?
In psychiatric jargon is called 3 different phenotypes, 3 different sectors of psychopathology. The first, most discriminating, and most discriminating involves the interpersonal relationships. Borderline patients have intense, unstable relationships marked by shifts between idealizing someone and devaluing someone, and marked by vacillation between over-involvement and dismissal or under-involvement. They also have fears of abandonment, which are and fears of rejection, which is an associated feature, which are the phenomena reflecting a real fear about being alone. Some, including myself, feel that is really where the core of this disorder is in the interpersonal area. A second major sector of psychopathology has to do with affective lability, or emotional dysregulation as it's become identifiable through dialectical behavior therapy. But this includes a tendency towards angry outbursts or inappropriate anger. Many patients will say that they're always angry or that they can't control their anger. Mood changes that you could say are something that might characterize people with bipolar disorder. But
I had a friend in high school, and he said that he was always angry. And then he went to Rhema with us, and we all went to go visit him. And we showed up, and he was so angry that we showed up unannounced because we had no cell phones back then. I had no way to have his telephone number. He was one of our best friends in high school, so we show up at his apartment, knock on his door.
High school or college?
It was Adam.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And we went to Adam's, and
Did he say he was angry all the time?
Yes,
Okay.
he did. No, and he said when we were with him and talking to him, he was like, I've worked on that. I've overcome being angry all the time.
Yeah.
But the whole time I'm talking to him, we left that meeting with him. It felt like a meeting. Here I am meeting up with this kid that we love, that we hung out with. It was just, oh my gosh, you're going to Rhema? Let's go visit.
That's not why he was angry, though.
Oh, it was his girlfriend thing. We didn't want his girlfriend. We didn't want his girlfriend.
Yeah,
or something.
that
But whatever it was, he was still borderline because he lost it.
Mm-hmm.
And he had I was like, dude, you still have your anger issues. And then when we tried to explain a situation, like he still had it. He still had this anger. And so it's just very interesting because that is one characteristic of a kind of a full-fledged borderline. And here's the thing. He came from a wonderful home. His parents really loved him, but you can actually be too spoiled into borderline and narcissism.
In borderline patients, it characteristically involves feelings of anger and is characteristically very reactive to a social context. It's not like the moods change because of some internal clock that is pushing the moods back and forth, but is very responsive to the social context and in particular to adverse interpersonal events. And a third part of that affective picture is emptiness. Not all borderline patients will describe it. Those who do describe it, it seems in listening to life histories as if it's something that developed as a result of a long-standing sense of being neglected, so that there's an inner emptiness like a hungry child who has not been fed enough. The third sector of psychopathology belongs to the behavioral problems. And here, deliberate self-harm, recurrent suicidal ideation, and or acts is sort of the signal symptom of borderline personality disorder. Borderline patients often do hurt themselves and hurt themselves repeatedly. The more they do that, the more apt they are to be suicidal. Self-harm acts are both something that are self-punitive and a way of easing this dysphoric states of mind that they can't relieve otherwise. It also can become a call for help, a way of eliciting supportive responses from others. The other behavioral symptom has to do with patterns of impulsivity. The borderline patients typically have unsafe sex, drive recklessly, in addition, are frequently bulimic or substance abusing. So that's the behavioral realm. The last realm has to do with cognition. And here, borderline patients, and this is why they were originally thought maybe to be an atypical form of schizophrenia, can have these lapses of reality testing. For instance, they can be like paranoid ideas. But the paranoid ideas usually occur when a borderline patient feels otherwise alone. And the idea that somebody's watching them actually is a psychological way of not being alone. They'd rather have somebody watching them than being alone. They can also have sort of hallucinogenic type phenomena when these are people who may have trouble going to sleep at night because they're alone, and they may hear voices under those circumstances. I say they're not really psychotic because they reverse very quickly when you put the borderline person in a social context where there's other people around paying attention to them. So that's the definition, more or less as it's been since 1978 and in the diagnostic system since 1980. But one thing I haven't mentioned is a disturbed sense of self, a sense that they're not really stable. It changes. A lot of borderline patients will say that I behave a lot depending on who I'm talking to or who I'm with and what I perceive they want or what they expect from me. Say ill-formed and unstable identity. There's an argument could be built, but that is a sort of blanket problem, and everything else is subsumed within that. And that's what one of the pioneers in this area, Otto Kern.
So also, if you are a Christian, many of these things, and this is why psychology has good diagnoses, bad on the help, because God has not given us a spirit of fear, but power of love and a sound mind. If you are a Christian, then you're probably going to be part of a church. A church is going to act as a very stabilizing environment.
That's good.
And so many of you, maybe you grew up with borderline personality, but church or your community actually stabilizes you, and you find stable relationships and people who care about you. And it just it mellows out. And then it may flare up again if you're in a negative relationship. Very interesting is that the borderline personality flare-ups tend to be interpersonal, not based on just outward stress. So the outward stress is going to be a little bit more bipolar, it's going to cause
really
the
good.
bipolar,
No, that's really
cause the
good.
schizophrenia,
Sure.
cause mental breakdowns, anxiety attacks. You'll notice that with the borderline, it's not an anxiety issue. It's not a fear issue. It's an anger issue.
What I think when you say interpersonal, that's the best, because here's how I can prove this to you. A lot of borderlines are the ones that will get road rage because they're angry at a person behind the wheel, even if they don't know that person.
Okay, yeah.
It's a person.
This person did this thing. So again, I was watching, another video where a test or even a bad score in a test, that doesn't bother them. That doesn't faze them. Other things that faze other people don't faze, they have a normal reaction to other things that faze people or maybe cause fear in other people. Just kind of a pure borderline personality is mostly created in the childhood, whether perceived or actual reality, where the child didn't get the praise when they needed it, where the child didn't get the attention when they needed it, and then they craved something and so it's in hunger, like I said, that's not getting fulfilled. A need to be just validated, like you did a good job. So here's the thing: if you are in a relationship with a borderline, you can help them feel stable. And we don't like to, what's the word I use? Enable. Okay. So alcoholism, we don't want to enable people. So I don't want to say that this is enabling people, enabling a borderline, because when it comes to their arguments, when it comes to their anger, that you don't want to enable. When it comes to their need to be validated, you can do that. You can work extra hard to help validate them because they need it. But here's the thing about the validation: if you're doing it in a proper, healthy way, that is, thank you for doing the dishes when maybe you didn't say that before. Hey, I just want you to know I appreciate that. You can, a borderline to them, it's not just, it's water that satiates thirst that actually can be healing and to a place where they don't need it as much. Okay. They need a little bit extra because and here's the thing. Whether we don't, like I said, we don't want to enable people. We don't want to, go overboard for like narcissism. But if you're in a destructive borderline mentality, if you know somebody who's in a depressive borderline mentality, if you know a young person who seems to be maybe a little bit borderline, you can praise them. You can help them. What you're doing is you're helping to build their inner self. Okay. Hey, I just want you to know you did a good job here. Or in validating their feelings, not invalidating, validating their feelings and their emotions. You don't have to agree with them. Okay. You get in an argument. Okay. We're going to talk. I'm actually going to play this couple. I'm going to skip that because I got couples who already have done this really well. I want to go to this father and son over here, Michelle, in the beginning. Maybe see if we can do 1, 2, 5 on them. The son is the podcaster with 165,000 followers.
Aww.
And the dad is an actual psychologist.
Oh, that's cool.
So he has him on to talk about these things. And you can start in about 2 minutes and see if we can get through some of this, because a lot of it was really good. The dad is just, you would want him as your dad. He's just great.
That's great.
Today, with you just explaining what it means to have borderline tendencies, maybe going all the way up to what full-blown borderline personality disorder looks like.
I'm sorry, just to pause this right off the bat. I have not watched this, but I love the way that he's saying borderline tendencies, because I actually wanted to say this, and I'm going to go ahead and say it before I lose my thought, and we're actually not screen sharing, so praise God. I think that for my situation, I would more categorize it in that I had, and maybe obviously still have, borderline tendencies rather than like a full-blown borderline personality disorder.
Do you think that you did as a kid though?
No, and here's why. Again, I can very, very starkly and easily identify all of my borderline issues with Leah, and then as a side subset with my mom. And I want to explain to you guys something that this makes it super interesting. Okay. I believe that we all have multiple personalities because we all act different based on who we are around. My personality of who I am around my family is not the same personality that everybody else gets. It's close. It's very similar, but it's not the same personality. That part of Michelle does not need your validation. That part of Michelle doesn't need you to think that she's anything. I am solid. Okay.
However, SK brought it out full bore. The worst
because
it's ever
I
been.
think he tapped into something else that was totally different. Again, tapping into different parts of a personality, but by and large, all of my borderline personality disorders, if somebody does something to me, there's nothing that's going to make me act violently. There's nothing that's going to make me angry at other people like that I can think of.
No, and I can vouch for that. She never ever. I've never seen.
I never
her
lose it. I don't lose it
or
with
anger
other people
at anyone else.
I've only ever lost it with Leah and then my mom, and maybe a little bit with Matt, but not. You know what I mean?
But that is part of borderline. That it's only the people within your inner circle that.
But even other people that have been in my inner circle, like define your inner circle, right? I'm just saying that I think maybe it's because I'm able to be like the core Michelle with Matt, right? Does that make any sense? So I'm saying I'm going to pose to you guys a very interesting thing that it can also be, and probably often is, personality related. And that's where, again, these subsets where these people are not really doing that. They're not giving you that idea that it can just be personality related.
And again, when we're talking about the Bible, everybody is living in your feelings. And this was what I was telling Michelle earlier. We're all living in our feelings. Whether you're living through your feelings of your flesh, or as a Christian living through the feelings of a Christian, you're living through feelings. You're living through emotions. You're living through dopamine. You're living through serotonin. You're living through hormones. And even if you're making yourself get out of bed, even if you're making yourself go to work, almost everything you do is not cognitive. You're just doing it. All right. And so this is why the Bible says, walk not according to the flesh and those feelings. And that's kind of what the DBT and the therapy is helping you to kind of overcome, and in a way that is, actually Christianized, because everything in the West is Christianized. Why do we love? Why do we have joy? These are Christian actual principles, even that therapy uses, even if they're not Christians. They don't know it, but they're in a Christian society. That's why they use these terms. But the Bible says to walk according to the Spirit. Very interestingly, the Spirit is full of emotions, love, joy, peace, patience, When you actually, patience is a feeling. Did you know that? The fruit of the Spirit is patience. You feel patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control. All of these things, when you have self-control and you're in a moment, somebody cuts across you on the highway and you don't honk, you don't yell, you're feeling, and you don't even know it, you're feeling self-control. Right? So I want you to come to a radical acceptance, because if you accept this will change your world. If you don't watch any other part of this show, this will change your life, okay? Because it is the opposite of what you've been taught in church. Because they are trying to divorce and try to tell you that your feelings are over here in your flesh, and that the Spirit operates from your mind and your thinking.
Sure.
And eventually you'll do it from the Spirit. No. You have to understand, we're all here. We're all in the feeling section. We're all going to we go by feelings. We go by our gut. We go by our emotions. And I want you to my emotions in Christ are going to be good. My emotions in Christ and my feeling and my gut feeling that tells me to do something, even if I don't necessarily want to do it, I'm going to do it because my feelings are telling me that's the right thing to do. I want you to understand that when you have given your feelings, hallelujah, your feelings are not your flesh. I want you to repeat this. My feelings are not my flesh.
Are not my flesh.
What? My feelings are not my flesh? I thought I'm not supposed to go by how I feel. I'm not supposed to just out of the abundance of the, you can have wickedness out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. My feelings are just a set of emotions. They are hormones. They are just there. Now they can be utilized
by your flesh.
By the fallen nature.
Yeah. The sin
I
nature.
really feel like sleeping with that woman. I feel it. I'm going to do it. Okay. I feel like yelling. I feel angry. What we as Christians are going to do is we are going to radically embrace our feelings. And the only cognitive thing we do, okay, is we cognitively say, Jesus, I give my feelings to you.
Give my feelings to you.
The Bible says to labor into rest. What does that mean? Oh my gosh, I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling frustrated. I'm feeling sad, even when I don't need to be feeling sad. Okay, if your dog died, we're feeling sad.
Do you succumb to the emotions, or do you overcome them?
We are going to, can I pose something else?
Sure.
Transfer.
That's good.
Okay? So what we're going to do is I want you to say, my feelings are not my enemy.
My feelings are not my enemy.
My flesh and my sinful nature is my enemy.
That's good.
It's an enemy to God.
Sure.
But my feelings of even anger or frustration or any of these feelings that are just happening, they're not the enemy. I'm not my own enemy.
That's good.
I'm not, as a Christian, I'm not an enemy to society. I'm not an enemy to myself. I need to know, why am I feeling this? Okay? Is there a reason behind it? So what I'm going to do is, when I'm feeling the negative set of emotions, the anger, the frustration, the suicide, the depression, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, this is all a part of how you made me. These emotions are real. I'm really feeling them right now. Now, Jesus, can I do an exchange?
That's good.
Can we wash these feelings? See, the negative emotions need to be washed in the blood of Jesus. It's just, your feelings are like your clothes being dirty. Okay? We don't want to be angry that we used our clothes today and they got dirty. We need to radically accept that our feelings are dirty today, just like our clothes are dirty. The only way that we can really cleanse them is through Jesus. But I'm going to give you some steps today too. And we do this a lot on re-regulation that may help your body to hand those emotions over to Jesus.
That's good.
So we're going to do both, because even without Jesus, there are weapons. And so that's actually a good thing, because with Jesus, there's more. It's just like with healing. So we want to walk in the spirit and not in the flesh, so that our emotions reflect how Christ would have us feel in that moment. And it takes work. And I will tell you, being filled with the Holy Spirit, singing in psalms and hymns, and taking a moment when you're bupping, okay? We're going to give you some natural ways, but let me give you some spiritual ways.
Are we ready?
Yeah, so go to, or back just 1 second. You can try reading the Word of God. Sometimes that may or may not help. You can try singing a psalm. You can try prayer. Try praying in the Spirit, okay? I would try all of these spiritual things along with, and in addition to, some natural things like splashing cold water in your face, because you're like, oh, shoot.
I'm not going to lie. This is my favorite. the Armor of God beard and face oil.
And if you can cognitively recognize, and this is really important, if you can keep a diary on where you are emotion-wise, and so for a borderline, like in the morning and maybe in the afternoon and in the evening, this may be helpful and something you need to do if you're truly, really borderline. Write down the level of anger or frustration that you feel. Okay? Write that down, like it's 10%. And then if you start to go above a certain percentage, like 30 or 40% anger, frustration, you're starting to slip. You're starting to split. So then we need to go back to our fallback and start to implement some things like splash cold water, do some exercise, do some push-ups, just do a couple jumping jacks. And that will bring down that level so that you can think through that situation at a normal level.
Yeah.
All right? Okay, back to Dad here.
Of all the major identified personality styles, we could say, or tendencies that are problematic in the sense of creating distress for the person who is acting them out and swept away by them, as well as dysfunction in relationships, in jobs, and so forth. So we have these two elements, distress and or dysfunction, that are the underpinnings of the other D word used in psychiatry and clinical psychology, quote unquote, disorder. This, among other such things, such as paranoid personality disorder or obsessive compulsive disorder, is one of the most difficult to talk about. It's complicated, it's slippery, it's murky, and its history is marked by a tremendous amount of patriarchy, frankly, and pathologizing of young women in particular, who had every reason and right in the world to be royally pissed off about their situation, and they'd had it up to here. So the roots of this
So you can't
way
just
of looking
put a
at things.
borderline in every. You can't just tell somebody who's borderline all the time. If they're like super angry about something, they could have a legitimate reason.
They're really fraught, so we have to be kind of sensitive. And the other aspect of it is that there's kind of a disconnect between the official checklist account in the Bible of psychiatric and psychological classifications, which I'll get into in a minute, and on the other hand, what it feels like from the inside out, and what it feels like to be with someone whose underlying borderline-ish module is in full activation. So I hope we can move back and forth between this more orthodox, outside-in, clinical description and really emphasize more in a compassionate and empathic way from the inside out what it's like and why it's this way, and especially what we can do ourselves if, for various reasons, we have these tendencies. Just factually, okay, what can we do about it? So that's sort of my framing here. Now, you can tell I'm backing my way into this one a little more carefully than I usually do.
I think that's really appropriate here for all of the reasons that you alluded to as you were giving that introduction to what we're going to be talking about with emotional regulation and others. And this shows up out in the world and has consequences in our relationships. So it's an important thing to talk about, but it's also, like you were saying, kind of fraught here.
Maybe a way in is to start with the 9 so-called symptoms or criteria in the standard checklist, and 5 of them being really consistent for a person are the diagnostic criteria. It's a box score way of diagnosing people. That's the system that's used in the DSM, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, which itself is quite controversial because this approach to categorizing people in ways that are extremely consequential, including ways that historically have led to people being locked up. And there are people who think that this whole approach, kind of the box score, criteria, is wrong, that we need to have something that's more grounded in a developmental theory of the case. And this is something that many people have talked about and are working on. All that said, so let's do the box score. And we're talking here about a chronic, pervasive pattern that crosses relationships, crosses situations, and crosses times. It's not a passing sort of thing based on the worst date of your life. It's more like we're talking about something quite consistent. So that said, 1, frantic efforts to avoid real or imagined abandonment. 2, a pattern of unstable and intense interpersonal relationships characterized by alternating between extremes of idealization and devaluation. 3, identity disturbance, markedly and persistently unstable self-image or sense of self. 4, impulsivity in at least 2 areas that are potentially self-damaging, such as spending, sex, substance abuse, reckless driving, binge eating, etc. 5, recurrent suicidal behavior, gestures, or threats, or self-mutilating behavior. 6, emotional instability due to a marked reactivity of mood. In other words, the mood is really variable, such as intense episodic dysphoria, irritability, or anxiety, usually lasting a few hours and only rarely more than a few days. Emotional volatility. 7, chronic feelings of emptiness, something missing inside, unfulfilled longing, a kind of deep, deep, deep hole in the heart, as I've talked about for myself when I was a kid. 8, inappropriate, intense anger or difficulty controlling anger. 9, transient, sometimes stress-related paranoid ideation, paranoid thinking, or even severe dissociative symptoms, a sense of going far, far away, becoming really unglued inside, things start seeming somewhat unreal. Okay, those are the 9. For me, the fundamental framing in helpfulness and mental health is what, why, and how. What I mean by that is what is characteristic, including in comparison to a relevant group that you might belong to, like a person that age, that gender, that situation in society, and that's the what. How extreme is it? What's present and how extreme is it? Second, why is it? Is it situational? Is it grounded in a really, really rocky childhood? Does it seem organically, even genetically rooted, distinct from upbringing or environmental factors? Why is it the case? Because the why drives the how to help.
Yeah, I think that what I'm interested in here is that those are the diagnostic criteria. As you were saying, in order to receive a BPD diagnosis from a clinician.
To 3-year-old child who is really upset after having been separated or facing separation from a beloved caregiver, let's say a parent. And this little child is just kind of coming unglued, is really upset, and is both clinging and complaining, or clinging and punishing. They want very intensively, the caregiver to stay or to come back, and they're also really angry at the caregiver for separating from them, including in an almost primal sense of the caregiver differentiating or having an identity or life of their own.
Daycare literally can create a lot of borderline,
because that feels catastrophically destabilizing inside for the child. How does a 3-year-old get there? Typically, it's a combination of nature and nurture. Typically, there's a combination, on the one hand, of a often very sweet and interpersonally engaged, very sociable temperament, combined with lots of sensitivity to what's happening outside them and what's happening inside them. And
I love that. So how do we get there? So this can be like a borderline is often a very sweet-tempered child who is very, very sensitive. And I would say what's very interesting is that Michelle's talked a lot about her, borderline. And I, as a child, especially before ninth grade until my sophomore year, I was just borderline. I could tell I was, but it was interesting because I had no anger like this. But then I look back and I was like, oh, so it wasn't like, there wasn't for anywhere for me to yell at or people to yell at. I was an internalized, I remember being, and it was like, you think that the borderline is going to be having like an issue after all these things are happening. But I was raised in a traumatic childhood, so that every other weekend I had to go see my narcissistic dad. My mom was constantly working. And so I was a poster child for this whole, and I wasn't angry at my mom, but in third grade, I remember like there were the marbles and this glue, and I rubbed them all over my arms because I was so angry that she was leaving to go to like work, and she was going to leave me with this babysitter, this 15-year-old that was like hooking up with, black kids in the apartment. She didn't have any choice. Like she had to go to work and she had to have a babysitter. So it wasn't her fault. But I was so angry and every time my mom dropped me off at a babysitter, because I had like no babysitters were ever abusive, but I had a couple that were like one particularly that was just awful. And one that Michelle will tell you, they got paid to feed us dinner, and the dinner was peanut butter and jelly on plastic plates of like from like the 80s that you would, and her house smelled like, I can smell the house. Can you still smell that house with the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for dinner?
You always remember that memory.
I'm sorry, I do. And then we had another babysitter that I hated being left out, but I'm not going to go down that. Sorry. I just remember I was so angry. And so I just totally understand this. And for me, the dangerous behaviors, because I was a good kid, because I was a Christian. I think that if I wasn't a Christian, that maybe I would have gone down some other routes. I don't know. Mine was, here's the thing. I know the moment this borderline personality was created in me, and I remembered it. I remember seeing it. I switched in my own brain. I felt myself falling away. And, and I started to eat. I'm not going to say like overeat, but I'm just going to say I started to use food as a means of dulling pain, which is how many of you hate the feeling of being full? Like I can't stand it. So it's a tormenting thing as a child to, when you're in that much pain and the only thing that you can do is eat or something, or like ice cream or sugar is actually kind of like a high. So that would dull the pain. And then again, just you would feel ugly afterwards. So I know this childhood pain. I know this childhood trauma, but I was this kid. I was such a sociable kid. I loved other children. I was kind to other kids. I encouraged other kids. I absolutely love social relationships. I just love people, right? But then I have this thing, and it says, here's the thing about the abandonment. It's real or perceived because it was real at one time.
That's good.
And I was abandoned so many times in my life that it's hard for me to even put it into the quantifiable numbers. It was a constant, please don't leave me. Okay. Please don't leave me. Okay. Please don't leave me. Okay. And my mom, to her credit, I was like the number one kid to miss school because my mom would let me stay at home whenever I wanted.
Pause. Can we get a shout out from everybody in the chat if we are still live? Because
we gone?
Chris says that she thinks that she lost connection. She's not sure. It looks on my end like we're still live everywhere. But Chris is on Rumble. If we could get a shout out from somebody else on Rumble that we're still good, and it might just be on her end. If we're not still good on Rumble, let me know.
I see us as live. We're moving. You're talking right here.
Right. I know, but that's not Rumble.
Okay.
That's YouTube.
Okay. We are on YouTube, so let me know. All right, let's go back to father and son.
Often with a fair amount of anxiety in the mix.
They're live.
So that's kind of on the inside of the kid. And then on the outside, often it's a parent who unwittingly promotes anxious, insecure attachment. A parent who draws the child close and then pushes the child away. a child who themselves is unreliable and unstable. One moment they're charming and wonderful and just so great. Next moment they're drunk or they're gone or they're preoccupied with their partner and their own potentially borderline-ish hungers for their partner. And sometimes a parent who alternates between idealization and devaluation, between cherishing and horrible punishments, even abusive ones. You know, when you have a invasive disruptive parent or invasive disruptive environments, poverty, disengaged or intermittently engaged, let's say male parent figures, siblings who come in and come out, being someone who's in foster care, moving through multiple placements and never really finding stability. You know, there's this combination of the two together. And I really think it's incredibly important to bring in these dimensions of the innate genetically rooted temperament of the person and often a catastrophically unhelpful environment of all kinds, including an environment that, I mean, basically, most parents don't wake up in the morning thinking to themselves, how can I promote anxious, insecure attachment? You know, how can I promote borderline tendencies inside my child? They don't. They themselves are grappling with a lot of stuff. But at the end of the day, as you kind of started out, facts are facts. What is, whatever it might be. And the result can be then this image of a 3-year-old who's kind of falling apart, both tantruming and clinging and really, really suffering inside.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, that 3-year-old grows up, and here we are today. So kind of looking in the here and now at ways in which the adult version of that tendency might show up in the world, there are these two big characteristics in borderlininess. And the first one is instability, and the second one is impulsivity. And borderline...
Like-mindedness. For the sense that
Not
others
that I
are
don't mind him,
like-minded
but the dad
with you.
has
They
a
see it
little
your
more.
way. They agree with you 100%. They're totally with you. And in this more borderline aspect of that, there's constant insecurity, chronic insecurity. No matter how reassuring the last 10 minutes or 10 years have been, it might also fall apart in the next moment. And the unfortunate thing then is that the drive for reassurance as an external source of internal stability, which is the root of the issue, that drive for reassurance in various kinds can push others away just when you really, really need them the most, which is really quite poignant, even tragic.
I am so sorry, and I don't want the show to go super late, but I'm hoping that my own personal aha moments as I watch this will help you guys. I don't know if this will aha Leah. I'm having to do a translation as he's speaking to the way that I'm hearing what he's saying to what I think he actually means, and that is this. That constant. So what he just said is you could have 10 minutes or 10 years of reassurance, and you might think at any moment it might fall apart. I've never experienced that. And so I asked myself, what else might that look like in me, in my situation? When it comes to Leah and my situation of my insecurities with Leah, is no matter how much she tries to tell me whatever it is that I'm feeling insecure about, you know, yes, Michelle, I take you seriously. Yes, I value your opinion, you know, whatever those things might be, which I'm totally, mostly we've healed.
We're on the other side of a lot of this, but let's talk about when it was the most broken.
When it was the most broken.
Yeah.
I would constantly feel like that's fine for right now. You might be saying that right now, and you might mean it right now, and you might be actually assuring me right now. But
tomorrow you might not.
Exactly. Tomorrow you might not. I was very distrustful. And so having you constantly reassuring, I needed that and I think I even knew that I needed it. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. And so we're older now. Okay. And it's taken me a long time to understand Michelle and the things that would actually bring her. She's a very let me just be clear. Michelle is a very emotionally stable person, to which when it comes to anxiety, right here. Okay. But that wasn't always me, and that's not in every situation. So because of the life that we lived, and hopefully we'll be able to tell it in a book, because of the family dynamic that we put ourselves in to be ministers, we're in a family of broken people. And if I had
think
been,
everybody is.
because I had a good mom, okay, who, even though she was broken, she did raise me to love Jesus, to a semblance of strong Christian. When I went to Rhema, I didn't need anybody. I had no borderline tendencies. I had no anger. I had no anxiety. I had a little bit in that I hated for my
fear of abandonment.
My roommate to be. I didn't like to sleep alone when my roommate would be gone till 5 a.m. It would get kind of creepy and scary. Like, I liked to have somebody in the same house with me. I just don't like to be alone, but I can handle it. I remember like thinking I was hearing some demons attack me in the middle of the night. I was like, Amy, come home.
You
like,
were
I just
very
need you
young at that time. You were 17 years
I just
old.
need you to be like in the other room. Like, I don't care if you're 50 feet away, just be in the same building. Okay. Just somebody else be here. But I was fine without my mom and my sister. It took me, like, I was going down the path of narcissism, basically. And that summer, the Lord told me to love my mom and my sister. The next year, my mom had a huge mental breakdown, and we reordered our life. Michelle had the meeting the boys online. And then we actually had, the next year was probably the best year of my life. So in the midst of these couple breakdowns, we had a lot of healing. But we invited and we participated in working with other people who were very broken. And in working with broken people, if you don't do it right, they can hurt you, they can harm you. And coming to live with my grandma and my uncle in a situation that maybe we'll write a book about one day, but there are things that we're still not really able to understand and quantify and even share some aspects of how hard that was. Right, to come and live with Grandma and Uncle Jack.
I think I could quantify it easily. Not right now.
No,
I mean, I wouldn't have a problem doing that.
Okay, there are things that we've been discussing that we're not sharing.
Oh yeah,
Okay?
that's different. That's different.
So
okay, I get
things
what you're
that
saying.
didn't need to be as hard as they were.
Yeah, sure.
So there were parts of my life for the past several years, or for the first few years, basically, of me moving in with my grandma and my uncle to take care of them, that did not need to be as hard as they were. There was a brokenness on the part of our family dynamic that perpetuated in me those older borderline type tendencies that were actually healed.
Right.
And I didn't recognize that that's what that was. And why was I fighting this stuff? Because I'm fighting somebody else's brokenness that I think is health and healing. And so I guess what I'm saying is, you can be healed and whole and be thrust back into a situation that will reignite things that were actually healthy. So if you've got an ankle it's healed, you walk on it, you run on it, you do the things, but you can break it again, right? And it would restart a lot of those things. But so my point is this: Michelle, through all my whole adult life, has been a rock of, when situations get hairy. If we were on the deadliest catch in the middle of Alaska, and every hoist and thing started to break, Michelle would be cool, calm, collected, and figure out what to do to fix it.
Until, and this is where it gets interesting, and we're going to get back to the topic in the video with this, until and unless Leah started to question my decisions. In which case, I'm dead serious. This is what has happened.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good in any situation as long as I'm being taken seriously by Leah, as long as I'm being respected and my opinions are
Perceiving to be respected.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
exactly. So my point was, back on topic, because we're going to jump back into this video, and I didn't want to I don't like all these rabbit trails. I'm sorry. I didn't intend for it to go into all of that. I just wanted to emphasize, as you're listening to these videos, if you would like to try to identify with these things, even when they say something, I'm not trying to say find, I already know that I'm this. And so when I disagree and I go, well, that doesn't fit, how would that apply to me? So then he says, you're afraid at any moment that it may all fall apart. I can understand what that would look like for other people, but how does that apply to me in my situation? And that's why I wanted to stop and say, okay,
Sure.
I can see how I have felt that way in the past about Leah.
Sure.
At any moment, this thing that she validates me and she does all these things. okay, in my weaknesses, but I feel like at any moment that might fall apart. I don't trust that that's going to stay. So try to, as you're listening, if you already feel like you're in this category, try to not box yourself into the things that he's saying, but expand it beyond the way that you're perceiving what he's saying.
And that's a good thing for me, because when I watched the couples episode, most of the women would feel abandoned, or like they're not loved, like they're afraid their spouse would leave or something. And so if you're saying to me, and I've worked on this heavily, I need to know that you respect me or you appreciate me. And growing up, because of the way we were raised, I had a hard time validating Michelle in the things that she did. Maybe it's artwork, maybe it's a poem, maybe it's a song, maybe it's something that she did. Maybe I thought that it was really good, right? So I've worked extra hard to say, hey, your Christmas decorations look really good. It's hard sometimes, but I work through that because I know that that's something that is validating and it's good and it's wholesome.
But I'm also really good. And I have, you know how we have dogs that they really should have a playmate, but they don't, and they're good at playing by themselves. I do a very good job of, when I do something that I would like validation for, I come in and I will say, hey, look at my Christmas decorations. Aren't they great? Come look at them and tell me how awesome they are.
Yeah.
I will do that consistently. I think that's healthy. I think you should do that.
I think that is healthy, because if you're going to go and ruminate,
like, oh, they didn't tell me that I did all that work on those Christmas decorations and they didn't come and tell me anything. No, go tell them, hey, look at my Christmas decorations. Do you like them? Tell me you like them.
So I will say that Scott Kesterson was in his, as a psycho, analyzes people, analyzes where their weaknesses are. And so what he does a crazy amount of is, I'm never going to leave you. I think you're amazing. Validating, saying I'm never going to leave. And then he turns into the psycho.
Well, you know what makes so much sense? Like, okay, I actually was not afraid that he was ever going to leave. Like, that was a zero fear of mine. But because he was trying to over psychoanalyze, he would constantly say this to the point where it's like, okay, now you're creepy. I'm never going to leave you. Even if you walk away from me, I will always be here. I will always be there. I'm never going to leave you. 20 years down the line, you'll come back to me. I know you'll come back. Like, it was so creepy. He would say stuff like that all the time. And I'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not afraid that you're going to leave. And I think that he thought that he was appealing to, because I think he overstudied all of this stuff. I think that he thought that he was appealing to this part of me where I wasn't afraid that he was going to leave.
Right. But what he did do is he left emotionally.
Yes, he did do that.
And as a psycho, he's just total psycho.
All right, back to the video here.
There's this common dynamic that I think I learned from you, Dad, way back when, probably when I was in some relationship or another, that you described as the pursuer-distancer dynamic.
Yes.
Which is this very, very common model that appears in relationships where you have a pursuer and a distancer. It's exactly what it sounds like, where one person is kind of constantly seeking the attention, affection, desire, interest of the other, and then the other person has more of a desire for personal autonomy. Maybe one of these people, the pursuer, wants a lot of intimacy, whereas the other person, the distancer, wants a lot of autonomy. And the more intimacy that the pursuer seeks for, the more autonomy that the distancer looks for. And you can see that really emerge inside of borderline-ish relationships.
Yeah, really, really well said. And that's why it has helped me,
son.
Working with people, to keep coming back to that desperate,
you can see this, like, I just actually just watched the son
it's so understandable
smile when his
what
dad,
that child
like,
wants.
jumps.
Let's say perfect union, perfect rapport, perfect like-mindedness is, yes, desirable when you're 1 or 2 or 3 years old, but it's impossible in complex adult relationships.
It's not going
with
to happen when
individuated
you're an
partners.
adult.
And there will often be a kind of dynamic in which there is someone, let's say person A, person B. Let's say person A is a kind of highly stable, even to the point of being a little maybe boring or...
Are you calling me out right now, Dad? You targeting me over here?
Not at all. No, I mean, but someone who, someone who's really quite stable.
For the record, I would refer to myself as quite stable, maybe even to the degree of being boring. So maybe I'm calling myself out there.
That was a surprise. I didn't expect that.
Stability is definitely part of my self-identity.
Okay. And has their act together. They're grounded, they're rooted, they're functional in the world, they have an income. And in other words, they have a lot of stability and a lot of regulation. And they don't seem to have intense needs for themselves. So therefore, they can be quite generous, quite available to the other person who forms a relationship with someone, person B, let's say, who's got a vulnerability, borderline tendencies. Think of someone who has whose psychological personality structure is like a ball with a crust. And the crust is solid. It's functioning, and in certain situations that don't challenge it, everything is fine. But if you start moving into territory that's more about intimate relationships and that have elements that really reach all the way back to early childhood in terms of the stakes on the table in an intimate relationship, well, you can sometimes crack through that crust, fall through that shell, and there's no interpersonal, there's no internal psychological structure till you fall for years developmentally all the way down to someone who's a toddler deep down inside. Okay, so that person, let's say, sometimes can be fairly dramatic, interesting, lively, interpersonally astute, extroverted, charming, appealing, in wonderful, wonderful ways. So then you have these two people who come together. And then sometimes what can happen is that the person who's more vulnerable, especially when they crack through their shell to that really activated young layer inside, can become quite demanding. And the first few times it happens, the other person thinks, oh, wow, I must have really blown it. I'm so sorry. You're really pretty upset about this. I guess that means I messed up pretty big time. I'm trying to understand it. That's reassuring. But what that can do, and if you get caught in this as a therapist, as I have at times, it can create a kind of vicious cycle in which now the B person, the more borderline person, has had a sense of reassurance. There's been this test. Their partner, their friend, their sibling, their parent passed the test, which then activates even stronger buried longings for closeness and even fusion, enmeshment with the other person. So they raise the stakes a little bit. Now the test gets higher and harder. So their partner or the other person in the situation is now faced with a more intense test. The critique seems a little overstated, over the top. It's kind of confusing. So they pass the test the second time by being really, really, really reassuring, very embarrassed, very apologetic. They bend over backwards. They walk on eggshells for a while, which reassures the B person, who then escalates further.
Sure.
And even escalates to the point, of a kind of preemptive strike on the devastating disappointment of the relationship by forcing disruption in the relationship sooner rather than later. Because if they become as dependent, let's say, as they were naturally when they were 1 or 2 or 3 years old, if they become that dependent on this person in an adult relationship today, and that person leaves them, scorns them, exiles them, oh my gosh, that would be so, so horrible. Can't possibly tolerate that. It better escalate early on to get it over with. I'm certain that some people listening here are nodding along and going, wow, right now in this, or whoa, been there, on either side of the coin.
Yeah. So what I can say about that is that I've had relationships with people who absolutely had tendencies in this direction. A lot of the patterns that you're describing were ones that I've absolutely
shore up various systems in the body that are regulatory, that maybe are much more accessible initially than something that's psychological, like regulate your gastrointestinal system, regulate your immune system, regulate your hormonal system to the best you reasonably and sensibly can. This is not a trivial step to take. And it's one that often in the beginning is much more accessible before getting into more psychological stuff. And it also is really useful for a person to train in things that are regulatory, like mindfulness, or the cultivation of a kind of witnessing that can step back from the reactions, labeling the reactions. That's my inner, tantrumer. That's my inner hungry little kid. Just to be able to name it to tame it, as the saying puts it. So this is really helpful. Learning how to calm the body.
So
yeah, that's so good. Name it to tame it.
We will not go on a big long tangent here.
Here
I just have a couple
comes
thoughts.
the monster.
Okay, so
she's 2 years old.
The very first thing that ever happened to me, I discovered on my own to set myself free. And that was to realize that when I get super angry, there was chemicals that were coursing through my veins like a drug. And if you are drugged, you are no longer in control of yourself.
Yeah, you've been saying that for years.
I've been saying that for like a decade at least.
Yeah.
And when I discovered that, it was hugely transformative to bring me back to the reality of this isn't real. These emotions now, they may be based in something. And so I love that. So I've actually been able to take and make cognitive steps in that same vein. So I like the regulatory thing. I understand that when I journal, it's helpful to keep me regulated. When I eat right, it's helpful to keep me regulated. The most important thing, but the most difficult thing for me to do is to regulate my sleep, right? To get enough sleep. These are things that I think, and nutritionally, when he talks about your gastrointestinal things, Leah eats a lot of chocolate, which makes her constipated. Okay, these are types of things that we need to make sure that we are
don't eat a lot
regulating.
because it does.
Wait. What I mean is,
yeah.
what I should have said is, when you eat a lot of chocolate,
Yeah.
it makes you constipated. Not that you eat a lot of chocolate.
Eat any, it does. But yeah.
Barry, you ruined us. And I came down, and this is still sitting here. This mint chocolate thing, which I did not eat. But it's not that I won't eat your stuff, Barry. Totally will.
I already ate some of this.
I did. I had a couple. I had 4 of those little pieces last night for my snack.
The fishes.
Yeah, the seashell things. But my point is, I love this
Good, because I thought I ate
regulating.
them.
We decided to give the whole other box to Uncle Jack. But regulating these different things I don't mean to go on main. We're already here. Is really, really important to understand. So when he talks about naming it to tame it, I love that. To call it, this is just when, you get hangry or something like that. A friend of mine used to talk about that all the time, where she would get, like, she was able to easily identify that when she was really hungry, then she would become borderline.
Body. Learning how to just settle down, learning how to take 10 breaths, each one with long exhalations.
I learned to walk away.
And then there's the
That's the
nurturing
big
side,
one.
which gets at the deep root of it. The regulation aspect does get at some of the root of it, but there are many, many, many people who have by nature a spirited, excitable, sensitive temperament who don't have the relational hunger and the deep sense of not being glued together deep down inside that characterizes someone that's more on the borderline spectrum. So nurturance, look for any which way you can to truly internalize the social supplies coming your way. And as you and I have talked about a lot, we wrote about it a lot in Resilient, and I've written about it elsewhere as well.
They wrote a book
Look for
together?
opportunities to take in the good when others are present with you, when they are in rapport, when they are loyal to you, when they do care about you, when they're still in the game, even if you are getting kind of upset, right? Slow it down to take that in. And I have had the clinical experience frequently with people who said, basically, I want to be loved. And yet when we really explore ways that they actually are loved and liked and included and appreciated and seen, they push away those supplies because those supplies maybe activate intense longings for love that they anticipate will end in disappointment and betrayal and disaster, or because at some level, they are not willing to exercise their willpower for 5 or 10 seconds to slow down and just stay with the experience of someone being caring. Sometimes because it's hard to shift their psychological gaze from the other person outside them to their own interior, even for 10 seconds. Because like a child who is insecure, who stops monitoring the caregiver for even a few seconds, then the caregiver could go away. But if the person is willing to engage the process of understanding themselves without pathologizing themselves, just on a factual basis, with compassion that you talked about for us,
What does he mean by
and
that,
also bring to bear increases
that
of
is
regulation.
Like, you're in like an actual clinical mindset.
Okay.
And also bring to bear a few minutes each day at a minimum, but a few real minutes each day, the internalization of healthy social supplies, there really can be a healing over time. So that to me kind of charts a course that a person can take in a very summary way. I'm summarizing a lot of stuff here.
I would need to do that. Go ahead and go wherever you want to go. I would need to do that specifically to Leah. And that's how I'm translating this.
Chart all the things I've said to encourage you.
No, I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious. So because
probably
I'm not going to
pretty
be
long,
able, I'm not
isn't
going to going over a list of people that love me
Right.
and that care about me. That's not a weakness. That's not what I would need to do. So find where you fit in receiving these helps. I would need to chart. This is where Leah affirms me. Now we're on the other side of it. I'm just
Right.
saying the Michelle of 5 years ago, even 3 years ago, would have been extremely helpful.
Yeah, because then when the boop comes up, it's
Right.
I love you, don't leave, or I hate
Right.
you, don't leave me.
Yeah.
it's very here's the thing, we're probably not going to get through this whole thing tonight. We'll probably have a part 2 next week.
That's good.
There's a splitting that happens
Yeah.
when I'm going to say when you reach the 51% of your emotions and frustration and
I thought you
anger.
said it was like 34.
I'm making up a number.
Oh, well, you can't do that.
I'm making up a number of
You ain't
where
allowed to make stuff up.
No. I'm saying like here you're even keel, right?
Yeah.
And when your anger and frustration hits that tipping
no
point,
longer-
it's just that tipping point,
sure, yeah.
and you feel the tipping point where I'm now out of control.
Yeah.
I'm out of control. I'm just super angry. It's like
Sure.
it's a supernova.
Yeah.
Then it's helpful to go back, and you've got to use your list as like ammunition.
Yeah.
Because these are bad guys now. There's are bad guys who are trying to sabotage your relationships, your loving relationships. So you're in a place of psychosis. Is what it is. Psychosis, by the way. A borderline.
Sure, I guess I wasn't clear about that.
So what happens when you reach supernova
Is when you get into psychosis, but you're only there for that period of time, and then you come back out.
But you are detached from reality.
Exactly.
Because reality, when you come back, is I love this person. This person loves me.
Exactly.
So when you say I hate you, you always do. Never ever. If you can, here's the thing. Never say this better. If you catch yourself thinking you're getting ready to say you always do this, you're supernova. Because if you love that person, you know that they are not always forgetting to take the trash out. They are not always running late. They are not always forgetting your birthday. They're not always putting you down.
They might.
Okay. If you're in a relationship with a loving person.
Or I think what you mean is they don't want to always.
Okay.
Someone may have forgotten your birthday every year since you've known them. That's not a good example.
That's not a good example. We're talking about the psychosis.
Yes.
So if you're saying you always do this in a moment of psychosis, 100% of those moments are that person isn't always doing it, right? It may be often, it may be a few times, but you're now sending darts. And this is, Michelle and I, both. It's not
You can use a literal example. I don't mind if you do it. I'll say, Leah, you always run late.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the example that you're going for. If somebody forgetting your birthday like that, you may have only known somebody for 10 years and they may have forgotten every single time. That's not a good example. A good example is something like
something that sets you off that would not set off normal. There's baseline and then normal people.
Right.
That other things may. Normal is where everybody gets angry. Borderline is when everybody around you's like,
I can see why you're upset, but you shouldn't be exploding.
That's a level that I would not expect. And that's a level where other people are doing this. They're walking on eggshells. They don't want to make you mad. But you're mad at them because you're thinking that they are not doing A, B, C, and D. We're talking about loving, healthy relationships. I know that for many of you watching my show, you may not have those.
That's really hard.
But that's what we're talking about tonight. Because when we have to deal with borderlines, that it's another show when the borderlines are with narcissists, psychopaths, other borderlines, other broken people. You've got to become your own emotional regulator.
That's so hard. Not impossible.
That is when you truly, truly need Jesus. And I will tell you this, Jesus is just as good as is better, is more complete than a stable person in your life. Okay. Because even a stable person in your life could have an affair. They could leave you. That's the thing about borderlines. You're like, you could leave me. Well, what if that person does leave them? Like, that's the kind of things that we're not, always talking about. Let's play just a few seconds on this, and then we're going to go to the couples one I found incredibly helpful.
Here, but they can really foster a healing and a beautiful, well-deserved kind of homecoming to feeling good about yourself as a person and fundamentally stable inside, so that there's an ongoingness of well-being deep down inside yourself.
Yeah, those two ideas of regulation and nurturance together actually reminded me of some of the, sometimes they're called third wave behavior therapies, things like ACT or DBT, that are often based
We're going to talk
on
about the DBT in a second.
The person who's providing the nurturance, let's say from the outside, basically says, I'm sincere, I'm offering this, but I'm not offering more. And Marcia would be really blunt. Someone like me, you feel like you're walking on eggshells. You got to walk on those eggshells. Can't create a disaster. She would just crash through the eggshells. And she'd basically say to people, essentially things like, as my supervisor a long time ago, said to me one time about his attitude about things, if you, the client, are making me crazy, I can't help you, right? And so I'm not going to be manipulated. I'm not going to be freaked out by your phone calls at 2 a.m. I'm just not going to pick up the phone. Now, I'm not saying that we should do that as a hard and fast rule, but it's a setting of boundaries. So to specifically speak to your question, with that acceptance aspect that you named initially in DBT, there can be a growing capacity to tolerate the distress of the emotional hunger for a relationship, for love broadly, right? And to tolerate that, the distress of that, then the person can become much more able to actually take in the food for their heart that they need, even if it triggers intense longings for more, because now they can tolerate that distress. So in the beginning, there can often be a fair amount of just education, matter of fact, yep, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, you're a duck, or who you are is a whole being. And in the totality of the wholeness of you, there's a really important point. There's a duck in your inner zoo, right? There are other things too. Beautiful, caring being, someone who has been wounded, desire for a better world. There are all these animals.
That's really good.
There's a lot of suffering in this territory. And there's been a lot of pathologizing, a lot of gendered mistreatment of people, and even misunderstanding, because just because, for example, someone is dramatic and intense and their mood tends to be somewhat volatile and they're sensitive, that does not necessarily mean that that person has a personality disorder.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, really important to be thoughtful about that. And it's useful to realize that there are certain aspects of these tendencies that are adaptive in certain conditions. It is a way to insist upon and get social supplies. And I can just feel I've known numerous people who've really grappled with this inside themselves or had a partner who's grappling with this. It's not easy. And so I just kind of want to own a certain compassion and sorrow, I guess, or sorrow and compassion in me about it.
When you're dealing with somebody with a borderline personality, they're feeling these feelings. They're feeling betrayed. They're feeling angry. They're feeling that they don't want to feel the negative feelings. Okay. So there's a compassion there that can be had, and we're going to get to how you can help yourself or others. What he just said was, if you can begin to tolerate the hunger that you have for the need to be validated, or the need to, I've had to work on this, and I've gotten to a super solid state, even in an environment where everyone around me is telling me they're leaving me. And that is a truth thing. Okay. As a borderline, that is a nightmare place to live in. Mm-hmm. They're actually telling you they're leaving, and they are emotionally leaving you. You left me for, I don't know how many months. Mm-hmm. In that, and we can go big for a second, I will let you know what happened when, and if you've watched our thing with Scott Kesterson, this is going to make sense. If you haven't, this won't make sense. So we had a podcaster friend who became a psycho, and he was a psycho, and he kind of pulled Michelle away from our whole family. And he is ex-CIA. He worked with the CIA. He worked with in Afghanistan. He worked on my expert mind manipulation.
I don't think it was ex-CIA, but he was part of the CIA program on mind control.
I said he worked with ex-CIA people. He was not.
At first, you said he was ex-CIA.
He worked with ex-CIA. He was not a CIA person. He worked with He was actually. It's listed online that he took part of the Afghanistan mind control. What do you call it? PSYOPs, right? Mind control. So he learned how to PSYOP people, and that's probably really dangerous.
And then he tried to make a business out of it afterwards. Literal one, and he was trying to make millions of dollars to
Spatial
the point where
Terra.
He got a government contract.
He got a $400,000 government contract, legit, to try to come up with a way to PSYOP people. Mm-hmm. Okay, so anyways, so this guy PSYOPs my sister, the one who I never in a million years would think, she may get married and move away, but she's never going to, think that I'm the bad guy, right? And then all of a sudden, she thinks I'm a bad guy, and she's like, listen, I'm going to get our finances in order, and I'm going to leave. And she literally said at one point, she said, I'm never going to talk to you, Mom, Matt, or Uncle Jack ever again.
But I didn't mean it when I said it.
Doesn't matter.
But I said
I'm a person. If I'm a person with a borderline personality,
right,
that's a worst nightmare.
Sure.
Right. And it was in that constant for just like a month or two, basically. It wasn't a whole long time that I was naked in the wilderness of the Arctic.
Yeah.
And that was a very hard, freeing thing for somebody who does, and I can look back and have this kind of please don't leave me mentality
Yeah.
based upon from my childhood. And again, because of our dynamic with our family, I was at one point a very independent, living by myself person, and I liked that life. And my mom and my sister moved out, and I recognized that I was actually headed down a path to narcissism. And so the choice for me was, you better go back to being borderline, because narcissism is a road to hell. You better go back to being a little bit emotionally unstable. And it wasn't for me, because I had Christ, because I was a minister. A lot of those emotional instability things were very buried and were not prominent, but they were definitely a full-time part of my childhood, of who I was. And a lot of them were healed. Like I said, I can look back and I say, Lord, those were buried. And then I get put in another situation of another scary situation and another scary situation, another scary situation. And I'm like, what are you doing to this person? And I can look back and I can see, and even with that, it was like, the word is resilience.
It's the Holy Spirit.
You've got to come to a place where no matter what happens to you, no matter who leaves you,
That's good.
you're not leaving yourself. You got to tell yourself this as a borderline. If you have suicidal ideations or ending the world, I never had
Ending the world.
wanting ending this world and not being here. I had those on and off as a child because it was just so painful. Not like suicide, but just like, I don't want to be here. And when you're dealing with, as we've dealt with a lot of emotionally unstable people who, if you let your guard down, this is why many of you it would come as a shock to you to think that Michelle and I would have any emotional instability.
Is there anyone out there that would think that?
Well,
that
I would.
be shocking?
Yes, I do. Because, yeah, absolutely. Because everybody calls us for help. And only through our show and only through Healing for the Fractured Soul have I given you a glimpse inside of me, because I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to show you, because 99% of me, and if you're knocking on my door, I'm here for you, man. I don't have, and I will tell you this, because of who I am in Christ. If I am actively ministering, if I have it turns off like this, and it turns off in an instant. Somebody calls me with a need, boom, I'm there. I don't care about myself. I don't. And I actually enjoy being that person. Okay. It's more in the solitude. It's more it's more in my interpersonal relationships when other people in my very, very, very close circle are unstable. And then what will happen is you can get some instability. And God, for me, has been like, I'm going to rock your world. I'm going to take you to the most unstable place that you have ever been in your entire life. And I'm going to show you how to be stable.
That's good.
I'm going to show you how to be 2-3 years old. And you need God. So I'm going to switch this to we need God. And then I'm going to end with a couple videos, and we're going to come back next week. Please come back. Borderline part 2. I got tons more to talk about.
It's an inexhaustible subject.
For me, because I'm a Christian and because I know Jesus, and when I got baptized and filled with the Holy Spirit, like all that left, like when I was in high school and I got baptized and filled with the Holy Spirit, I was the most emotionally stable I had ever been. Like because Jesus fills that. And I want you to know that Jesus can and does fill that. When you are responsible only for yourself. We come into complexity. when you start to be responsible for other people with mental illness,
Yeah.
and when you are responsible and taking care of other people who are in your inner circle who have mental illness, and you have let them in, their pathology will awaken it in you again.
Yeah, that's really hard.
And that has happened to me several times, which is why some of you will wonder, why don't Michelle and Leah let me come and hang out and be really close friends? And I will tell you this, because if you want me to be there for you, like, and be a minister to you, which is what I want to be, I can't take on your stuff as an interpersonally, and I can't be that stable person. So like the therapist, it's not a healthy thing for the therapist then to become your best friend.
No, you should never do that. Yeah, really,
Okay.
truly.
So then you're like hanging out, and then now the therapist, because this is what happens with friendships, is going to share some stuff with you. And it's in that unevenness, that therapist is going to be taking on things of yours.
Well, and yes, 100%. You will. You don't have a check valve anymore.
Right.
And so the most important thing to do and that's why I try to tell people, if you are trying to minister to those that are in your life, you are going to have to temporarily detach your heart from them.
And your wants and needs and desires and your broken or your,
Like, this should be a two-way relationship, and I'm always pouring into you and you're never pouring into me.
that's
you don't
actually
want them to pour
that's the
into
most
you.
safest place. That's the safest place to be.
You don't want them pouring into you.
So we've had, I've had, when Michelle was going through what she was going through, I had some conversations with the Cantrells and Christine, and she saw some of my vulnerabilities and prayed me through, but I've also seen their vulnerabilities and prayed them through. And I will tell this to anybody who is in ministry: don't let them see you in your underwear. Like, when you show them the parts of you that are not walking in faith, that have struggles, doesn't mean that you have a lot of them, but you might need some help. You need to have a really tight inner circle who will say, listen, I see Jesus in you. This is not you.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't lose that kind of respect for you.
Right.
And they don't start to like speak into you, because you just don't know what kind of information and how it's been curated. Mm-hmm. Now, and this is the way I look at like ministry. It's like a ladder, right? And each rung on the ladder comes from a place of like respect and honor. And I know spiritually who might have a rung right here who I can confide in. And I know that they are going to give me wisdom. Okay? If they're not in a place of wisdom where you're at and you try to confide in them, you're going to devolve. Like you're going to come down.
And keep in mind, when Leah says the word minister, we're talking about all of you, because you all minister to people around you.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you, if you are above your quote unquote best friends spiritually, they're not your best friends. You're ministering to them.
Exactly.
And you can't confide in them. They don't pour into you anymore.
You can explain to them when hard things are happening.
But can't
your
ask them,
weaknesses,
right.
Don't call them 3 a.m.
Right.
with an
Right.
anxiety attack or something like that, right?
Right.
If your house is on fire, yeah.
Because
right?
all they will do is pull from you.
Mm-hmm.
And then if the dynamic shifts so that then they become on top of you, which is what happened with me with SK, you've lost everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then they will start to lead you down a path where you will have lost the ground that you have already taken spiritually,
Right.
with your maturity.
Exactly. So if when you are doing some of these therapy things with people outside of your inner circle, keep them outside of your inner circle. Okay. And keep them in a really good place. And that's a good place to be, because guys, we don't need more than a handful of people right here. Okay. You don't need to be running down naked down the street for everybody in the neighborhood to see your weaknesses, see your brokennesses, see your things. When you come out, tell them about it on the other side.
That's it.
Okay? Say, I'm going to get to this. I'm going to get it on the other side.
All right, next video.
Okay.
No, I want to make sure that we cover all the ground you want to cover tonight.
No, I'm already going to do a part 2.
Okay.
So let's go to the DBT skills for BBT, 5 easy ways to calm big feelings. And yes, this woman has purple hair.
That's fine. She's allowed to have purple hair. All right.
It's going to be to the left of father and son. 2 to the left. Yeah.
I thought I clicked screenshot.
I
don't think I did.
That's
deeply
not
and
it.
profoundly
Hang
believe.
on. I'm sorry. We played you already, dude.
Nope.
Even with
Nope.
you know, people that didn't have BPD,
Hang on.
it was just,
Sorry, the screen's doing its thing, so I can't really see what's going on.
Being emotionally sensitive isn't a flaw,
Awesome.
it's a strength. You just need coping skills that can keep up with your emotional range. Hi, I'm Dr. Kiki Failing, psychologist, author, and expert in dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT. If you're dealing with borderline personality disorder, or BPD, this video is here to help. I'll be teaching you 5 DBT skills that can help you manage intense emotions. Stick around because at the end, I'll be addressing one of the most harmful misconceptions about BPD. But first, let's get to the skills. Number 1 is tip your temperature. When you feel like you're on fire because of your emotions, this coping skill can help you cool down. DBT has 4 nervous system regulation skills called the tip skills that can help you calm down when you're panicking. Tip your temperature is the first one. To practice, you can fill a sink or a large bowl with cold water and then place your full face in it. Or you can wrap a flexible ice pack with a wet paper towel and place it over your eyes and nose. Then hold your breath for as long as you comfortably can. This skill directly impacts your nervous system through a body instinct called the mammalian dive reflex. When you put your face in cold water, your heart rate slows down, which is perfect when emotional overwhelm has your heart pounding. But this skill works so well that if you have heart problems or other medical issues, you should talk to your doctor before using it. If you can't or don't want to dunk your face in water, you can also try drinking a glass of ice water, placing an ice pack on the back of your neck, or taking a cool shower instead. Even without the full dive reflex, using cold water can help you distract from impulsive urges while cooling you down, physically and emotionally. Number 2 is self-validation. The next time someone dismisses your feelings as dramatic, you can use this skill instead of doubting yourself. Invalidation is the communication that your emotions, reactions, or inner experiences are wrong or bad in some way. It's a major contributor to BPD and lots of mental health struggles. This skill of self-validation is communicating to yourself that your emotions and experiences make perfect sense. There are a few ways that you can practice. First, practice mindfulness of your emotions. When you pay attention to something, you communicate that it matters enough to pay attention to. Feeling your feelings, letting yourself cry, or journaling about how you're doing. All of these can act like self-validation. You can also self-validate by describing for yourself why it makes perfect sense that you feel the way you feel, or that you reacted the way you reacted. You could say to yourself, of course I feel scared after what happened to me, or of course I have trouble trusting people. This doesn't mean that everyone has to agree with you or feel the same way, and it also doesn't require you to like how you acted. You may even regret how you responded to a situation, but somehow it still made sense to you in that moment. Basically, if you struggle with something, there's always a reason. If you feel something, there is always a reason. And self-validation involves finding that reason. Or if you don't know the reason, just simply remembering that your emotions make sense. People with BPD often get called crazy or too much, and self-validation can help you better understand your experiences, regulate your emotions, and stand up for yourself. Number 3 is mindfulness of current emotion. Have you spent your entire life running from your feelings such that you've forgotten how to actually feel them? This coping skill can help. For a lot of people with BPD, emotions can feel confusing, scary, or overwhelming. Strong emotions can lead to impulsive behaviors, so it can feel easier to just avoid feeling at all. But humans evolved emotions to help us in a variety of ways. It's important to actually feel your emotions so that they have a chance to support you. Mindfulness of current emotion is a DBT skill that helps you start to do just that. Feel your feelings. One way to do this is to notice what emotions feel like in your body. Anger may come with tight muscles or warmth in your face, and sadness may come with a heaviness in your limbs or tears in your eyes. Anxiety may come with a shortness of breath or butterflies in your stomach. DBT offers skills for naming your emotions, understanding their parts, and deciding how to respond to them. But mindfulness of current emotion is all about observing. When you feel an emotion, just notice what it physically feels like. And notice how the physical sensations change and shift as you notice them. The goal isn't to change the emotion or make it go away. It's just to observe it with curiosity, like you're a scientist studying your own experience. Definitely feel free to start small with less intense emotions or for short amounts of time. The more you practice feeling your emotions, the less scary they'll become. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by your feelings, you can actually learn from them and learn to trust yourself in the process. Number 4 is opposite action. When your emotions are trying to drive you straight towards a cliff, this coping skill grabs the wheel and does a U-turn. In DBT, we have a saying: emotions love themselves. They can make us do things that keep them around. You're probably familiar with this pattern. When you have BPD, emotions often come with really strong urges to act in ways that actually make them stronger. It's like pushing people away proactively because you're scared they'll abandon you, but then that causes you to feel more lonely and scared. Or hurting yourself because you feel a lot of shame, which only makes you feel more guilt and shame in the long run. When you're stuck in an unhelpful emotional loop, you can break it using the DBT skill of opposite action. Opposite action is a skill for changing emotions you don't want to be feeling by doing the opposite of what that emotion makes you feel like doing. To practice opposite action, you simply ask yourself, what does my emotion make me feel like doing? And then you do the opposite. So for example, if anger makes you want to lash out at someone, but you know that wouldn't be helpful for you, you act opposite by saying something nice to the person, or at least walking away without saying anything at all. Obviously, this is way easier said than done, but it's worth considering and practicing. Following unhelpful emotion urges can get
So
you.
what we're doing with this is we are retraining the brain. And so you're having an argument with somebody, and instead of lashing out and saying, you always do this, you literally do something crazy and say, you know what? I just want to thank you for doing the dishes tonight. That was really great of you.
You're obsessed with the dishes.
I just come up with something.
It's your only example.
You got another one?
You have problems with it. Do you want me to do the dishes tonight? You've mentioned them like 5 times.
I'm trying to come up with something that everybody can agree with. Do you have an idea? Anything that would be in the midst of an argument or midst of maybe an emotional breakdown, you know, I just want to end my life or do something. You know what? I'm just going to go for a run.
The difficult thing is, so what you would need to do to really implement this is to plan ahead. And what I mean by that is, if you know that these arguments happen regularly,
what DBT is. You need to plan.
You need to plan ahead for what the opposite is.
Have a bucket of ice water ready at all times.
So for me, I'm sitting here, I'm thinking to myself, and it's been a very long time since I've wanted to punch a hole in the wall. But let's just say that was I want to punch a hole in the wall.
Let's go build a wall.
I don't think you can do that in that moment. I think there has to be a different example. But you're probably not that far off.
I love you, wall.
No. That's not the opposite.
I know.
Of something, but I do think that you're onto something when you say do something constructive, right? You have to find out what the opposite of that thing.
Rather than destroy something, I need to go
make something.
Yeah.
I need to go create something. Maybe that means go cook dinner or something like that. Go make brownies or cookies or something like that. Like do something constructive.
Go paint something.
Right. As opposed to.
I do that a lot, honestly. That's why I need my garden.
Right. So let's go back. I just wanted to kind of point that out.
You stuck in painful emotional cycles, and opposite action gets you out. But a key thing is to act opposite while still feeling your emotions and taking care of yourself. Validate your emotions and then act opposite. And use whatever other DBT skills you need to cope along the way. You can start small, but start somewhere. Each time you act opposite to an unhelpful, painful emotion, you teach your brain that you can do hard things. You're rewiring your brain to learn that you and not your emotions are in the driver's seat.
That's good.
Number 5 is accumulating positives in the long term.
I wouldn't call this like a borderline because the DBT works for all like anxiety and things like that. So we had one dog who got kennel cough or something like it, or we thought he had kennel cough, and I started to Google it, and it was like, oh my gosh, we can't have this dog around other dogs for like 3 months. And then another dog got a little cough. And so then I can't have that dog get around other dogs. And I started to spiral because then I was like, oh my gosh. And then I started to think the worst case scenarios. And I was going over a cliff for just 5 seconds. And so I'm outside and I'm working on something like mulch or something. And so I'm moving my body. And I am talking to myself and I'm telling myself, whatever this is, I'm going to radically accept it. This is the first step of DBT. Okay, Archie has a cough. We're going to deal with it. We're not going to hide it. We're not going to hide it from the other parents. We're not going to try to make ourselves like, it's
okay. Worst case scenario, we can't keep dogs at our house for 3 months. That's a radical acceptance of the thing.
It is, but it's not my fault. And I didn't do anything wrong. And Archie didn't do anything wrong. And his owner didn't do anything wrong.
Let's use an extreme example.
Yeah.
I think my husband's having an affair. You're pretty sure he's having an affair. Radical acceptance is my husband is having an affair and we're going to have to deal with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or you might be on the verge of a divorce radical acceptance is we are on the verge of a divorce, right? Like these are bigger things than what Leah's talking about. But I just want to like, you know, these are things that I guess I wanted to, I didn't mean to interrupt your thought, but I did get a little bit stuck on the validating yourself because I don't really like that. And so I want to come back to that.
That was a little bit too, yeah. So like validating it in that, like, it's okay that you're feeling nervous right now. It's okay that you're feeling.
Right, but like she said that there's a very valid reason for why you're feeling that way. I don't necessarily think that that's healthy.
Yes and no.
So I need to understand. I guess I wanted to pause on that.
Yeah.
I don't even have thoughts. I want to understand what she's trying to say, and I want to get to the truth of how that's helpful.
Sure.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just had a lot of thoughts going on here.
We'll finish our video and come back to that.
BPD has you feeling like a stranger in your own life. This skill helps you remember who the hell you actually are. Many people with BPD don't know who they are or what they want. If you struggle with emotions, it's hard to know your passions. And when you're constantly managing emotional crises, it's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture. The DBT skill of accumulating positives in the long term helps you reconnect with what matters to you and take value-based actions towards building a meaningful life. So to practice this skill, you first identify your values. These are the principles that are most important to you. Things like creativity, justice, nature, or fun. These aren't goals to check off your to-do list. They're the directions that give your life meaning. Ask yourself, what has made me feel most alive and connected in the past? What do I want to most be remembered for? Or you could Google a list of values and see what stands out to you, and then choose a value and take small actions aligned with it. If you value creativity, for example, maybe you decide to work towards hosting an art show or getting a job working at a museum. Or maybe you mindfully choose your outfits and makeup and take time every day to daydream or to doodle. Value-based actions don't have to be productive or help you reach big achievements unless that's important to you. This skill is about staying connected to what matters to you beyond just managing your BPD symptoms. When things get hard and you feel lost, refocusing on values can help you stay hopeful and motivated to keep moving forward. So there you have it, 5 BPT skills that can help people dealing with BPD. And now let me address that huge misconception I mentioned at the beginning. For decades, BPD was incorrectly viewed as untreatable. That's not only wrong, it's caused real harm. The truth is, BPD is treatable, and DBT is one of the treatments. DBT was actually developed to help people with BPD specifically. And decades of research shows that DBT works, not just for BPD, but also for anxiety, depression, PTSD, and other mental health struggles. DBT recognizes that people with BPD aren't manipulative or attention-seeking. Rather, it recognizes that you're dealing with emotional sensitivity in a world that never taught you how to manage it. The good news is you can learn how to manage your emotions now. The 5 skills in this video are a great place to start, but there are literally dozens.
So that was what I wanted you to encourage you about. There are...
Oops. Oh, we weren't screen sharing.
Oh, really?
They heard it. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, you didn't need purple lady. Okay.
You didn't. Yeah, that's what she looks like. Sorry, guys.
She's great to watch, actually. These 5 skills are great. And so you can put your face in some cold water. So, Michelle, we can just briefly discuss the acceptance of your emotions. So when I was a little bit anxious over, oh my gosh, what if all the dogs start to cough and all these things start happening? The radical acceptance of that. And then for me to tell myself, hey, Leah, it's okay that you're feeling this way. Like other people may not understand why you would be freaking out. And I even told one of the owners on the phone, like this whole epiphany that I had about radical acceptance. And I was like, it just is what it is. And it's going to be okay. And it turned out like it might not have been kind of cough. So it might've been something else. And I learned a lot of stuff through it all. And because I was able to have that positive switch in my brain, we're now on the other side. All the dogs are fine. Nobody's contagious anymore. And we're great. But, that was a kind of a moment where I had to retrain my brain, but also say to myself, it's okay that you're feeling this way, but because you know that this is a dysregulated feeling, then we don't want to stay here because so it's like, it's okay that you're feeling these feelings and nobody else may understand them. You are feeling them. But you don't want to stay here. These are dysregulated feelings.
Because I just wanted it could be very confusing with the very thing that causes a borderline to continue to act out, which is I'm right in feeling this way. Mm-hmm. They're wrong. They don't get me. They don't understand me. I'm so right in all of these feelings. So that's what it sounded like because I'm like, dude, when I am, having one of these like breaks, like all I'm thinking is how valid I am in my feelings. So I guess that's why I'm like a little bit confused as far as like, when I'm in that moment, the last thing I need is self-validation about my feelings. So I want to maybe reword what I think is helpful for you guys to go, you know what? I'm feeling this way because there is some sense of truth, but more validating, I think, the fact that you are just extra sensitive. Like, okay, hang on. I'm extra
actually
sensitive.
feeling this. I am
I'm
feeling
the
this.
feeling. These are very real emotions, but I still want to encourage you guys in that moment to go, but I'm not feeling it correctly. I shouldn't be feeling it to this extreme. Okay.
But you're in the self-validation. Sometimes, like, I thought you hit your head the other day, and I was like, Michelle, I'm so sorry. And you hadn't hit your head. It was something else, but it was painful, but it wasn't as painful. And you're like, that was really nice that you were validating my pain. I was like, well, I thought you hit your head.
Because I was talking about something else.
Yeah.
And then your reaction actually fit perfectly towards
But
that
I
thing. And I was like,
reacted that way.
Right.
With that level of injury.
right. So I guess the jury's still out on me on that one.
I know what it is. So what you're going to do for yourself, okay, is like, so I'm running late and I have a reason here. However, I've tipped the bucket in how I feel about it. Okay. And so we can come back because a lot of the borderlines are going to have discussions with things that are important.
I guess
but the way that you're dealing with them, you tip the bucket in how you're feeling about it.
I want to replace what her number 2, which is the
validating of,
with your phrase of radical acceptance.
Yeah.
Because I think that that's a better placement for it.
I get that.
So I'm going to, again, use my example, and we are going to round up the show here for tonight. But radical acceptance, Leah is running late. We're going to be there probably late. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? How is this going to affect us? Let's say we're running late for something that's important. Like I got to make it to the post office and I can't ship a package on time. Okay, it gets shipped tomorrow. That person will be okay. Even if I'm already running late because it's Christmas time and that package should have been shipped out 5 days ago, but I didn't have the product ready that they needed and it's already running late and I hate that it's running one more day late. Okay, radical acceptance. I have valid reasons for feeling this. Okay, but I have to radically accept the situation that I'm in, because when I react angrily, I haven't actually radically accepted it. I'm still fighting it. I'm still focused on, I wish I could correct you. I wish I could change you. That's not a radical acceptance. So I can validate this is my feeling, but I can't change the situation by yelling at Leah, even though I think that I can.
And there's a dynamic there where you're like, you kind of feel feelings of hatred.
Yeah.
And then when that leaves, you're like, well, I don't hate you.
It's okay. Right. So I really want to check the unless you guys have issues with the self-validation thing, like I feel like this is wrong.
Radical acceptance.
I don't know. Yeah.
So we're going to wrap this up, but next week I'm actually excited, and we're going to start with these couples. There's these 4 couples, 4 women, 4 men, and how the women have learned to recognize that their borderline personality caused their loved one, their husbands, to walk on eggshells. And then their husbands actually, and I love this, each one of their husbands has come up with, now that once a borderline recognizes that they're borderline, that's the baseline. Because there's another woman that says her new favorite thing is called Sage. She's created a whole new therapy, and it's couples therapy. So we're working on the borderline. We're doing couples therapy, and we're working with the other person who may in the relationship. We're dealing with you too, the husband.
Oh, okay.
Or
okay,
the
okay.
wife.
Yeah.
Okay, we're dealing with how you're feeling.
Yeah.
And how hard it is on you to be having a borderline spouse. You need therapy for that.
Right.
You do need help because you all of a sudden are walking down the thing and you recognize, I didn't do that thing. They asked me to do it 500 times. I didn't mean to. Oh my gosh, they're going to get mad. Right. And so you're just like, you start to panic again because you knew that they had said the thing and they're going to just lose it. And so,
and some people don't lose it in anger. They lose it in panic.
yes.
And we walk on eggshells when we know the person is going to panic.
Yes. But what's very interesting is that that has to be another disorder because that's not one thing that I've found in this borderline.
Where are we going to put you,
I
Leah?
don't know. I got to
And who's
Google
going
it.
to counsel me
I got to Google it.
for dealing with
For
you?
dealing with the anxiety.
Because I don't do it well.
Yeah.
I do not do it well.
Well, I've worked a lot on the anxiety and I'm when certain things happen. And I will tell almost every single part of my any sort of my issues is solved by financial stability.
No, that's not true, but I get what you're saying.
Like everything for me,
Not the ones recent.
that doesn't count.
Okay.
Okay. Chuck the past year.
Okay.
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 Chuck the past year. All of my instability has gone towards and it is usually related around something that we like a car breaking down. Like if I had $1 gazillion, and that's usually where they're all at, you know? And I haven't really had those, like mine have a basis in reality. Like when we can't afford to get this fixed, it's not going to be fixed. We've taken it up to Jamie's 500 times. It's not going to come back fixed. It's going to cost us another $2,000 to put an engine in. Like these are the kind of things that cause me panic. And that's a whole nother story. When you're in a situation and it could go south.
Like
You
I
may
mentioned the
not have-
divorce. I
you-
mentioned the affairs.
You may not have the money to fix the car and you may be walking to the store. And that's a very,
But we've only ever been in that situation, and it was very temporary. One time out of all of the times that you've panicked over the cars, we've always had a way out.
Yeah.
There was only one time that you guys had to bicycle to the store for a part.
No, because for at one time we had all 5 cars break down.
Right. That's when you had to bicycle
And we
to
could
the store
not,
for the car.
like the big van, we could not get diagnosed to drive again for an
What
entire
I'm
year.
saying is we could, and I've always suggested this, you've never wanted to take me up on it,
Are we doing this right now?
is to rent a car. I'm not saying that you're...
No, but here's the thing. What I'm just cutting back to the base of this. For me, personally, what I'm saying, and you can validate my emotions if you would like. Okay? For me, I can tell you that almost 99% of my anxiety is finances based. I can just tell you that when I have financial stability, I don't have those attacks. I don't have those panic attacks because even if everybody left me, I'm financially stable. I'll be fine by myself. You know what I mean? Like that's always been my thing. And I will just tell you that's honest truth from my heart.
Okay.
Right? Even dealing with some of the stuff we've been dealing with, financial stability would even deal with that. Like a total where I'm financially stable all by myself. Right? So then I'd be okay.
You mean just like independently wealthy where money comes from the sky?
Yeah, like if I have a bank account of like $1 million or something
That
like
doesn't count though, because that's not reality for people though. That's not financial stability. That's like if I had miracle money.
No, not even miracle money. Just, I don't know how to explain it.
Okay.
So let's put it like this. Our friend's sister had borderline.
Yeah.
She married a man who was financially stable. Her borderline's gone.
You think it
He
was
takes
the
care
money?
of everything. No, I don't think it was that, but that's what took care of her. The stability. Somebody saying, I will tell you that if I am married to a financially stable man, I have no borderline. I have no problems. Financially, he's got everything taken care of. And that is the truth for most borderline women.
Okay.
That is the truth. If you are dealing with, you have somebody who loves you,
Yeah.
who is stable and says, I'm going to protect, I'm going to
Right, but
provide,
I
you
would
don't have to
put
worry
the
about this.
emphasis on I love you, I'm going to take care of you rather than the financial stability part
No,
of
there
that.
is, and you missed the whole part where he said that. And like one of our videos tonight was when you meet a man, when a woman meets a man who is financially
Sure.
well off and stable.
Yeah.
And so, we've got savings, you got a steady job. We're
Well,
gonna,
it's not, and to be frank, it is not.
and that is honestly to goodness, raise your hand. That's 99, that's all women.
No, it's true because women are actually not designed to bear the burden of financial provision. That's not in
No,
in
their,
us. And so I
their
think a
job
lot
is
of
to just
people-
be able to care. Do I have the things that I need to care for my family? Then I will be financially.
I can prove to you that Leah's not wrong on this. So Leah finds herself stuck in like literally the bowels of hell on Twitter of these women and men who think that they live the perfect life and that anybody that has any issues outside of their life, that they are
Made
just living
mistakes.
life wrong.
Yeah, they just made
And
mistakes.
all of them, 100% of these superiority complex men and women all have a husband that has a financially stable job and the woman gets to stay at home.
Mm-hmm.
We call them the reformed bros. They tend to believe that women are subservient and they should just obey their husbands.
Not all of
And-
them. Not
Well,
all
a lot
like
of, I'm
that.
just saying,
There's
saying,
a lot of the masculinity group. That
Sure,
would
but my point
make sure
is-
that your card, make sure when your wife goes to the store, if
that
she
it
runs
always,
that card,
it always goes through.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is that unfortunately they come at any other people group that is having issues, that is struggling in any real area of their lives. And they're like,
Just
well,
get a better job. Just
you-
marry a better spouse.
Marry a better spouse, get a better job. It's your fault that you're in this situation because you made bad choices. If you had made choices like we made, then you would be fine. Which to an extent, that's mildly true. And what I mean by that is not so much that if you had made those choices, but if
they
that
had
had been
been
the
off-
outcome of your life,
Yes. Right.
then you actually would be okay.
right.
Most women who have all sorts of issues are financially burdened in their marriage where they have to have a job and they have to contribute because they don't have
I've seen it
what
with
they
my
need.
friends.
But
Yeah.
there's the caveat that you're thinking of. Well, I know this marriage and she's got everything and she's still crazy. Okay, maybe she's crazy. Maybe she's schizophrenic and that's a separate issue.
Yeah.
But most of the people that are borderline personality women, it's a lot of it has to do with the fact that they do not have financial stability
Or emotional
or
stability.
emotional stability. So it goes hand in hand. It's not just financial, but you know what I'm saying? So I do agree with you. I'm not disagreeing
And
with you
especially
on
when
that.
we're talking about Christian women, right? Who are loving and caring. So I know for a fact that when things are going well and, when the car is running and I don't have to worry about it, right? Like, we just bought a new car. I'm not
New
worried
used
about
car.
new used car.
It's the greatest. I love
turn
it.
it on and
Driving it
it
today,
drives
feel
to
so
wherever
good
I need
about
it to
it.
go so far.
I need a
Praise
tip, though.
God.
I keep going. It's a car that everyone has. It's the color that everyone has, and I accidentally pulled the handle on someone else's car.
It's
So
it's a gray
I'm
Toyota.
I need to
There's
get some sort
Thousands
of
of them.
things that
I
stick
can't
outside the
find
window
it in the parking
American
lot.
flags. I'm gonna get a little American flag so I can
can't-
find it.
I can never find it in the parking lot.
I'm gonna get a little American flag, the kind that stick in the window.
It's if this is like one of those things where you're just trying to blend in.
we
This
blend.
it is the best getaway car.
We blend more than we do with our maroon Honda Odyssey.
Oh yeah, I could find the Odyssey anywhere.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
didn't mean to cut you off.
No
Car. We got a new car, is
so
what you were saying.
Yeah, and so like when the Jeep was getting all mixed
Right.
up and like we couldn't figure out what's going on.
Sure.
Like I've worked so hard. Like God keeps
Right.
taking me through this thing. It's like you're going to get to a place where no matter what,
This is what Paul says.
whether you're in debt and you're working with Liberty, Is it
ResistanceShips.com
Liberty?
/
Trinity.
Trinity.
I always say Liberty.
Maybe because that's what you feel about it.
Trinity.
You feel liberated.
Okay, whether you're dealing with your mom who almost died, whether you're dealing with your sister who, like, I have had like 4 or 5 legit
Who was mind snatched by a
crazy,
psychopath.
like, I literally look in the mirror sometimes
publicly in front of everyone.
and I have to tell myself, Leah, you got up today, babe. You got a smile on your face. You did the thing. You did things, right? So because I don't know why God has chosen this particular life for us. But I
Except
will
for us
say
to be able
that
to
every
give it to you
single
guys.
issue and hardship that my friends obviously are not going through has brought me to another level and understanding and compassion
That's good.
for other people. Like now I truly understand people who have schizophrenia, who have loved ones who have schizophrenia, who have bipolar, who have borderline, who have these nerds, who have a narcissist in their life. Okay. I never thought this would happen. I even have great compassion for narcissists. Okay. And
That's not acceptance for them in your life.
no,
It's
but
just
I have
compassion.
compassion for the ones who were broken into it.
Yeah, that's good.
Now, I believe there are, out of the wickedness of the heart, I believe there are wicked people. I believe there are wicked people who have desires to harm people. I believe that they desire that. I don't have the emotional capacity for those people.
Yeah, that's good.
I have to save it for the people who are broken and they want to be healthy. They want to find Jesus. They want to be healed and whole, right? So next week, I'm very excited. So please come back. We're going to actually have these couples and the husbands who will have found ways. Like one couple, this is hilarious. I'll leave with this. She said that when she starts to go supernova, he will make a joke and kind of like laugh. He'll just start laughing.
Oh no.
And she goes, this might not work for other people. Like you might feel invalidated.
Yeah.
But because he starts laughing, I start laughing and it
wow.
snaps me out of it.
That's cool.
So then another husband says, or wife says that her husband will kind of just be like this. He'll say, do you need a hug? I know you're probably hurting right now. Do you need some? And he'll say it in a way like that. Like, do you need a hug? And she says, I will just melt. And I'll be like, I do. Okay. And that will work. And she goes, I know it's like a toddler and I know I'm kind of in that moment, but it snaps me out of it. And
That's way better than
I'm
throwing
kind of
dishes.
I'm validated in that moment. Like he does recognize that I'm feeling something out of the
Yeah.
ordinary. He's recognizing, validating it, but he's also infantilizing it. Do you need a hug? Right? Okay. Yeah, I do. Okay. For just a moment. And so
He's trying to save the dishes.
I guess so. So then each one of them will say, what we do here might not work for you. And another couple came up and said, this was trial and error. We just tried things in the moment to see what would work to stop my wife
Right.
from losing it. And this goes back to the 1800s and 1900s where they started classifying women with hysteria. And that goes to that's why a lot of the borderlines are are kind of women because women tend to be emotional. That's a thing. Okay. Men are designed. So when a man comes into this role and he's like, okay, these guys are great. I love them. These guys are the stable guys. And they're like, wait a minute. We're going to have a plan. It's what we're going to do. We're going to do this. I understand they're no longer out of control. It's no longer willy-nilly. My wife's losing it. She recognizes she has an issue. And I recognize that we can play. I have a part to play in helping her to stabilize her emotions. I want to be married to this woman. It's not working me just yelling. I've got to find a way to not divorce this person, right? I have to work with her brokenness because she can't help it. So then they're like, let's do it. And they become like a team working on a mental illness. And then that is a breakthrough when you're recognizing that borderline is a mental illness. Something is wrong. And that is a radical acceptance. There's something wrong with me.
So I want to add to this conversation because early on in the show, someone had left a comment like, and I don't remember exactly what it was, about how like it's, you know, a strong man can't heal these types. Like essentially, I'm paraphrasing it. Forgive me for butchering your comment, but what I received from your comment was essentially you can't put all this pressure on the man to heal this woman. Here's the deal. Like that's too much. Like these women. Oh, I know what it was. If the strong man can't help heal this borderline woman, if the world keeps labeling her as a victim. I totally disagree with this comment, and here's why.
We're not talking about a victim. We're talking about a disease. We're
talking about you have an issue that you're a team already. You're married. Okay. I'm not talking about putting a bunch of pressure on the man like, well, if you were just whatever, then a man could heal her. That's not what we're saying at all.
We aren't telling any borderlines to go get married and put all this on a
get to that
dude.
a second. I was going to get to that in a second. First of all, we're talking about married couples because they're the biggest percentile. Two sisters that share multiple businesses and a podcast, that doesn't exist. We're the complete
enigma.
Exactly. So, but it still works
As a relationship.
So maybe you're like Jewel and her mom, and they have a relationship that they can utilize these tools with.
Bingo.
Right?
Yes.
So whatever
Come
your
on.
relationship is, forget that we're saying that a man can do it. What Leah was saying is it's
a
very
stable
interesting.
a borderline needs stable people around them.
What Leah was doing is she was making an interesting observation
yes.
of something that's already taken place.
Yes.
Not an advice for if you are a borderline female, well, if you just found a stable man with money, then this would heal you. We're not saying that at all. But what we are saying is it's very interesting what things will help to heal. If you are a borderline person, you need to find within yourself how you and God and possibly other people in your life can help to regulate you before you find that. That's what we've done. Okay. And I believe that we have pretty much achieved it. Okay. All but a couple of outlying, instances where those are literally circumstantial based.
And here's the thing. We are two females who are supporting like a family and supporting people and have done that and have taken care of multiple people in our lives. And that,
again, we're an enigma.
We're an enigma. And so it's not about gender. It's not about the actual relationship. It's that most people are in a relationship with some other person of the opposite gender.
Right.
And that's going to be your most intimate relationship where you're going to see the most volatile.
And now you're a team and now you both have to work on it. And so here's the deal. If you're the man and you're watching our show and your wife will not address the fact that she has this issue, you can still work on this for her.
Yeah.
Even without her help. Okay. Now that's difficult and you just pray into it, but you can do it. So I hope that maybe next week we'll be able to give you guys even more tips and more, whatever. But I think that this was a really good starting place of explaining that anytime you react in a situation other than what you would desire because you were controlled by your emotions, that's a borderline trait.
Yes, is borderline
that you have experienced, regardless of whether you're a full-blown borderline. And so all of this stuff will still help. I love the DBT. What's the D stand for again?
Dialectic.
Okay, we forget that. Behavior therapy. It's CBT and DBT.
So basically,
cognitive behavior therapy.
So basically, dialectic behavior therapy is you're doing things physically to change your behavior. Where the
cognitive
for
is you're
schizophrenics and psychosis.
Yeah.
I'm still diving into how we do this, but that's a cognitive behavior therapy that we're going to.
Exactly. So we have a lot more to get into. I would like to give you guys an update on the calendar. I have almost finished October, which means
so excited.
I was working on it literally up until 10 minutes before the show.
Do you want to take a break tomorrow so you can finish it, or?
I don't know. It seems like things just keep coming up, so it doesn't matter. We'll see about tomorrow. I have had to have a radical acceptance that it's okay.
That is frustrating, though.
If January and January overlap. We have the same Januaries, and you guys get your calendars at least by the end of January.
I want to validate your feelings.
I had to radically accept that, you know what, homesteading, there's not really a lot going on in January anyway. And so homesteading doesn't really start to get into full swing until February.
Make a calendar.
What?
In January for your list of things to do. Because it's not less.
That's good.
Make a farmer's almanac.
Right. But I am so excited about it.
Were you going to Brighteon?
I was. So I do want to advertise for something that I haven't advertised for in a very long time. And that is the Brighteon store, because I got an email today and I loved their sale. I'm going to click the back button. Oops, that's not, did I just click off of it? Where'd Brighteon go? There it is. I'm going to click the back button here. They are running a sale. And I love this. It's your New Year's resolution sale. And so they have things on here to help you with your New Year's resolution, which I thought was super cool.
So you're getting a free colloidal silver for 2 ounce for nasal spray?
Yeah, which is huge for an order over $99. And so they have something that I love. They have thieves' hand spray.
Oh, wow.
Which I thought was so perfect. We use this all the time, every day. We're using Thieves Spray all of the time. So like if you're going to go into a store, this is the good way of having a hand sanitizer. Okay. So it's 20% off right now. Then they actually have Thieves Essential Oil Blend. That is cheaper than the big box store, not box store, but the big essential oil companies. Okay. So I actually would like to try there. It's a 15 ml. So it's the normal, 15 ml size for $29.95. That's an excellent price for that, by the way. And you can use that. I use it under my nose before I go into a store to keep from getting viruses. I'm not making any kind of medical claims. I loved this electrolyte drops, 2 fluid ounces. It's on sale. It's 19% off for $12.95. I'm using electrolytes in my drinks every single day. So I loved that. Let's see what else I thought was a really good deal. Oh, I haven't talked about it in a long time, but the Health Rangers Hawaiian Astaxanthin is on sale for $29.95. It's almost 30% off.
So Dr. Sherry uses the colloidal silver mouthwash all the time.
So you're gargling with colloidal silver, but back to the what is Hawaiian Astaxanthin? Oh. It's called the king of carotenoids, meaning you have free radicals that are flowing through your body. This helps to regulate those, to get rid of them. It's a natural sunblock. It does a whole, it's like, I remember an email once that Mike Adams sent out and he was like, if I could recommend any one supplement, it would be this one. It's like the duct tape of supplements. So there's that. That's an excellent price on frankincense. Holy cow, $17.95.
So how many, that chlorella, that's a good price for chlorella.
Leah's
My mom,
taking chlorella.
That's a whole pound of that. I do it every once in a while, but that actually helps get you going. That's part of my mom's protocol where she chews on 6 to 10 of those a day. That's 2,200 tablets. Do you know how long that's going to last you?
Like forever, the end of the world.
Like a lot people are like, well, I can't afford the supplements every month. If you needed 6 a day, divide that by 2,000.
Wow. So right next to that is turmeric. So Mike is obsessive about turmeric powder.
That's a pretty good price for turmeric powder.
And he is obsessive about finding a good, healthy source. He says a
Without
lot of the
aluminum.
times that you get the turmerics, you're getting them and they're laden with all sorts of bad chemicals. So that's 26% off, $16.95 for a 12-ounce bag. That's a really good deal. Let's see what else they have here. You're not allowed to buy their tooth salt. You have to buy ours with neem, because that was on sale.
Turmeric liquid.
Oh, I would love to try that. Which it has black pepper and ginger in it. That's 19% off. Let's see, 5G defense. That looks cool. Mineral drops. Those look great. The pine needle and silver iodine. That's got it all.
Oh, wow.
That will help you from getting sick is essentially the purpose behind that.
Cocoa love.
So bee pollen, I take that every single day.
Ooh, that's hard to get.
So that's a really good deal on that. You're not allowed to use their deodorant.
Look how much their deodorant is compared to ours, though.
Their deodorant is $25.95 on sale. Wow.
So
wow.
Ours is a good discount.
Ours is a really good deal. Let's see. Ooh, bug defense. We're going to make an off.
8 ounces. That's a pretty big bottle.
That is a big bottle. We're going to make an off. This summer. So that is coming, but they have it in the meantime. Oh, this looks nice. The Health Rangers Tea Tree and Lavender Shampoo. That's cool. 10% off of that.
Instant coffee.
Black cumin. That's not that great of a deal. Don't get that one.
The Lion's Mane,
that's a good deal. 12% off. I take that every single day. I take a lot of supplements.
We
right
like
now.
to tell you guys what you're actually.
So I'm super interested in MCT oil.
Okay.
I've been hearing a lot about the MCT, so somebody else get that and try it and let me know. Let's see. There's more bug spray. There's another shampoo.
Nattokinase.
Body soap.
is pretty expensive. That's a good price.
No, that's a good price for nattokinase. I'm taking that every day since my back went out. Lavender essential oil. That's an excellent price. $20.95. Liposomal D3 and K2. That's a good deal. $23.95. Let's see. I could go on and on. We're not going to go through it much more. We'll do one more page here and see what else is here. You guys can go through this. Anyway, you will save an extra. Here's the deal. When you go to mypillow.com and you use promo code RC, that's just so you can get the deals. At Brighteon, if you use promo code CHICKS, you save an extra 5% off of your order.
Basically tax-free.
So promo code CHICKS at Brighteon saves you an extra 5%. So they got protein powders, mobility. Oh, Opta MSM. So Michelle takes MSM every single day. That's a comparable price. I like that. It doesn't just help with your joints. It helps grow fingernails and hair.
Is it just me or some of these have some more reasonable
So that's
prices
a good deal.
as of late?
Yeah, these are really good deals. Now they do have a deodorant here that's closer to our price range. But you're still not allowed to buy there. So anyway, so brighteonstore.com, brighteonstore.com, promo code CHICKS will save you 5% at the checkout. So that's their New Year's resolution. So this is from Steven. I was going to wait until Friday's show. Steelers, are you here? I hope you are, because I'm opening this. I went to the store or to the post office today.
She's like, I can't wait till Friday.
I said, I'm not waiting till Friday. I'm just going to open it. Now, I don't know if this is just a letter or whatever in a fancy envelope. It said expected delivery day was on the 6th, and I think that's when they got there. All right, so here's a card and a letter and a donation, which I don't know which one to read here. Dear Chicks, I did not have a 10, so I sent X amount of dollars. Also, if you won 5 or 10 on the scratch offs, you can take to any gas station and they can tell you if you won, and if you did win, they will pay you right there. You don't have to send it in, mail it in. I did answer you that night. Guess you did not see my answer. I did actually see it. Okay. I did see that. So thank you for that. And then let me read the note here. I hope this is okay. Let me double check on the chat because I think you're still here. I learn more each week. Thanks for the honesty. Good night, Leah and Michelle. I hope you're still here. Dear Leah, Michelle and Leah, I love your new calendar because it is your first calendar. It is also the first calendar to have my birth date on it 2 times because January and January. I am praying for you to have the strength to get it done no matter how long it takes. Thank you.
What a validating
to finish it.
Thank you,
No
Steve.
one can do it all, Michelle. Only Jesus. And he rested on the 7th day after making the earth. So I decided to pre-order now, so you know you have it at least one order when you finish. That's so sweet. Remember, you said you can't do it all, and no one else is either. And God is able to make all grace abound. You have very nice handwriting, by the way, towards you, that you always having all sufficiency in all things may have an abundance for every good work. 2 Corinthians 9:8. I would like to pre-order 2 calendars. I am sending $75. Whatever is left, you can use as a donation or whatever. I pray this year will be the one from the Lord God that we, the people, are looking for. God bless you, Leah, Michelle, and family. Happy New Year, Stephen.
These are going to be pretty fancy calendars, and I have been worried about what we might need to price them at. So, Steelers, thank you so much. I just started crying.
That was so sweet
That
of
was
you.
so validating for somebody who needs affirmation and encouragement. You can do it. I'm pre-ordering.
That's awesome.
I'm even putting my money where
sweet.
my mouth is. The first 2 will be sent to you.
Amen. Yes, and the winner,
And you're going to
Ed,
love them.
Who won when we had the winner. So the
we had
first
a winner
3
for
will go
calendar.
out.
Okay, Ed's
Yes.
first, actually, because he won first. Okay.
Yes. So that was very, very sweet.
Steelers, that's so sweet.
So my plan is, and I don't like to put dates on anything. My plan is I would like this week to go down to the print shop so that I can get an estimate for how much it's going to cost per calendar.
You got to bring up your canvas so you can show them.
I know. Yeah. And so once I have a price, I can set you guys all to be able to pre-order. I just need to know how much it's going to cost. And I'm not trying to make money on this calendar.
So guys, these are really fancy. They're
really
so
nice.
detailed. Michelle, there's
They're like
details.
a book. It's like writing a book.
She is writing a book. This is not a picture and dates.
Okay, so, but if you want that,
Oh yeah.
you can order Kim's calendar by the Butler Butterfly Lady at gmail.com. Butler Butterfly Lady at gmail.com. They are absolutely gorgeous. So this is the calendar that you're going to hang in your office.
Why isn't it hanging somewhere?
Well, because I want to keep it down here so that I can constantly show you guys Butler Butterfly Lady at gmail.com. She's pricing these at $20 with $5 shipping. So just $25. Absolutely gorgeous, super high quality, like card stock, and just beautiful. And these are pictures that she took, that Kimberly's in our chat all the time. Kimberly Venzel. And her daughter Kira's song On Holy Mountain plays at the end of every single show. This highly talented family. She actually hatches, is that the right word? Butterflies?
Yeah.
Like she overwinters them and stuff.
That's awesome.
So like she's the butterfly lady on Facebook.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you want just that type of calendar, by all means, this is what you can get. But our calendar it's literally like writing a book. And I have a sneaking suspicion it's going to take off. I'm not like overselling it in my head, but like it's that cool. I'm thinking this is going to reach beyond just our viewers. Like,
yeah, I hope so, because every single date has like special things of what happened on the date, and then each month what you're going to do and recipes.
And next year's is going to be even better because I'm going to be able to take more time to make them and to really, I want to include. So this year's is our homestead. I want to be able to include next year things that other people are going to be doing on their homestead. So like, I want to be able to incorporate your goats and your sheep and your cows and your rabbits and things that other people do that we, this calendar was kind of rushed, although it's like really professional for being rushed. I'm not going to lie. But I want to be able to incorporate more of what other homesteaders are doing as well. Outside of like, we're limited. So that's what I want to do for next year. All right. Thank you guys. Lorraine says that truly was sweet and beautiful. And I'm in agreement. Chris says, Jesus has set Michelle free from so much. Amen. He is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. I totally receive that.
So we're going to pray. God, I thank you so much for everybody listening. I thank you that in the spirit, you are regulating all of our emotions.
Amen.
We are born in a fallen world. And I thank you that you're redeeming the world. You're reconciling the world back to you. I thank you for a Christian society in which a lot of these mental illnesses find a place for healing. And I ask you, Father God, for every person out there that is suffering from a mental disorder, emotionally, mentally, something that's physical that could be affecting their minds. I ask, Father God, that you would wipe clean all of the dirt, all of the grime, all of the hurt, all of the pain. You would reset them, because all the things that we do in the natural must meet you in the supernatural. And so, Father God, we ask for supernatural healing. We ask for supernatural deliverance. We ask for supernatural setting of the minds. We ask for you to wipe out the schizophrenia. We ask that you would teach us how to pray for our loved ones in a way that reconciles them to you. I thank you, Father God, that we walk not according to the flesh, but according to their spirit, that our minds are renewed, our spirits are renewed. The blood of Jesus covers our mind, our bodies, our spirits right now in Jesus' mighty name. I thank you that you're teaching each person how the Spirit of God can come in to cleanse them, to regulate their emotions, that their emotions are good, that you gave them to us, that our feelings are not bad. It's the fallen world that corrupts them. So I thank you, Father God, that you are cleaning out the corruption. You are resetting our systems. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
Amen. Okay, last but not least, I do need to ask for, I've been meaning to do this for a couple of days, and I'm hoping that it's not too late to get somebody that's good. I need a volunteer, and it is just a volunteer position. I would like a volunteer that is willing to go over this calendar in the next week or so, or even starting now with the months that I already have done, and
just send it to Kim.
Check for edits. I can't extra volunteer somebody, anybody. By all means, just let me know. You have to be able to be mildly familiar with Canva. I mean, you don't have to be. That's helpful. If you're not, that's okay. I can still walk. I don't need you to make the changes. Actually, I don't want you to make the changes. I just need you to check for like spelling errors. And there's a lot of details. So this is not a small thing that I'm asking of somebody to do. I understand it's a very big thing because there's a lot to these. I'm not going to hold you to it. If you miss something, that's fine. But there's so much in here that I'm afraid that I would love to have it edited by somebody's eyes other than my own. And Leah's not going to do it. I mean, Leah won't. No, she's not that. Leah's not a good editor for that kind of thing. She might help with grammar, but not that sort of thing. So anyway, if you would like to volunteer to do that, please send me an email at massfaith33@gmail.com. That's MASFAITH33@gmail.com. I do need somebody to be able to do it in the next week or so because I'm almost finished. And like I said, you could already get started on the first 10 months, 9 or 10 months that I have done. That would be so great. Would love you for that. And like I said, it's strictly volunteer, but you also get a sneak peek of the calendar. And oh, that's true. That's good. Leah says you'll get a free calendar. 100% you will get a free calendar. Now don't try. I'm only going to be able to do like one volunteer. It's not like, 10 people volunteered and then 10 people get free calendars. First person that I'm able to connect with will be the one that will do it. So, but I will appreciate ahead of time that you guys would even think about doing it. So I think that's it. We will see you probably tomorrow night. I don't know. We'll see. But for sure on Friday for our headline news. And if you missed the couple videos that we've done recently, you don't want to because they were hilarious. Leah and Michelle Fitness is probably going to become the new, just forget the news, forget everything else. It's just this and the hilarity that has ensued with Leah torturing Michelle. And then our friends and viewers, Shauna and Condi, contributing to the delinquency of Leah's torturing of Michelle. That's it. So, okay. We love you guys. We'll see you next time right here from ResistanceChicks.com.